What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 7 id. Chapter 151. Advertise here. Ha ha ha, Laozi's time has not passed yet. Shiki looked at Luo Ye who rushed towards him, waving his swords on both feet, and rushing up. Didn't you all have been defeated by my elder nephew, the old thing, ran out of marine again. Shut up. The blade of the magic knife Chindian rubbed the blade of Golden Lion's leg towards him, igniting a ball of sparks, and slashed the Golden Lion's waist. Call. Golden Lion flew up, thrusting his left foot against Luo Ye's head. Luo Ye turned around and took a knife. The edge of the blade got stuck on the tip of Golden Lion's sword. Golden Lion smiled. The tip of the sword staggered Luo Ye's blade and pierced his face. At the same time, the other foot floated and flew towards Luo Ye. When Luo Ye twisted his wrist, and the blade slashed one of Golden Lion's swords. Armament Haki emerged in the other hand and caught the thrown sword. Humph! Luo Ye opened his eyes, and his murderous aura rushed towards the Golden Lion. Shiki laughed, that kind of thing is useless to me. The foot sword that Luo Ye was holding with his hand suddenly used force, kicked Luo Ye away with one kick, and then rushed forward, his feet were like stars, and he jabbed Luo Ye very quickly. Luo Ye turned over in the air and blocked Shiki's sword with a backhand. When, dang dang, sparks flashed away in front of the two of them, Shiki floated in the air. His feet waved out of shadows, and Luo Ye's hands were almost invisible, and every knife blocked the Golden Lion's attack. Snapped. As Golden Lion kicked again, Luo Ye caught his sword again with his left hand, and then his eyes widened, his left arm seemed to grow in a circle, and he threw Golden Lion out. Slash wave. Luo Ye swung a sharp knife, and the black and red slashed the flying general out. Shiki grinned in the air, and the body that flew out suddenly fell, avoiding the slash, and at the same time the toe was lifted, and the same black and gold slash flew over. Slash wave. Yi one sword flow. Luo Ye retracted the knife into the sheath, and his body disappeared. A black, gold and red line shot from the spot on the Golden Lion's side. When the slash encountered the line, it was split in two, and the remaining slash flew in two directions. The ground split directly into a crack. Shiki looked back at Luo Ye who appeared behind him and was putting the knife in its sheath. He touched the wound on his waist and smiled grinningly. Is he? But that kid turned out to be your nephew, Garp's grandson, ha ha ha. Luo Ye's expression was a bit strange, and he confirmed that although this old thing is aging, the armed color and the sighted color are still a terrifying level. Why did the armed color and the sighted color disappear when Luffy was hit? Call. Luo Ye took a deep breath and drew out the knife again, covering it with the armed color, dyeing the magic knife Thousand Blades into a black long knife, and Conqueror's Haki turned into red lightning and slowly wrapped around the knife. Oh, Armament Haki plus Conqueror's Haki, how long can you support it? Shiki smiled and said, stupid people, I didn't expect Luo Ye, you little devil has fallen to this point. In his eyes, this entanglement of Haki is an extremely stupid behavior. Haki is a kind of boldness, but the quantity is limited and requires physical support. No matter how strong Haki is, just a little bit is enough. Like Haki fully open, there is no use, just a waste of energy. And at this level, think his sword can't stop it. Feeling the murderous in Luo Ye's eyes, Shiki smiled and said, haha, I don't know if you remember, I am a lion fruit, capable person, I am a floating person, I can freely manipulate myself and all non-living objects, such as this. He held it with one hand and shook it suddenly. Lion Majesty Katakana middle dot earth coiling. Rumble. The earth quaked, as if being lifted, and countless stones and soil were gradually scattered and separated, and gathered into a few lion-like mountains that could cover the sky and the sun. Those vibrations were like the roar of a lion, and Luo Ye was surrounded. In front of this lion mountain, Luo Ye is as small as an ant. Ah, Luo Ye chuckled and waved the hand holding the magic knife Chindian. Cut. A huge black-red half-moon slash entangled with red lightning and went straight to a lion mountain. Under the blessing of high-level armament Haki and Conqueror's Haki, the slash slashed past and chopped the mountain into dust. Luo Ye turned around and swung the magic knife Thousand Blades again, and a huge slash was sent towards Shiki. Shiki hurriedly used his ability to make a mountain in front of him to block the slash, but Luo Ye's slash would surround his lion mountain. It can be called a broken segment. Oh, such a terrible slash. Shiki looked surprised, but it's useless. He clenched his fist again, and the mountains that Luo Ye had chopped into pieces once again settled together and turned into huge lion mountains again. In the face of this ability to freely manipulate objects, it is turned into powder, and its quality is still there, unless it disappears out of thin air. Otherwise, it's useless to attack. Hoon word. Luo Ye cut a lion mountain into pieces with another knife, stomped on the ground, stepped on the air and went straight up, turning into an afterimage and went straight to the Golden Lion. He is sick and able to fight against him, so long as he can get rid of the ability. When Shiki tried to control the ground, he found that a strange force had controlled the ground and the rocks, and lion fruit couldn't control it anymore. He is sick and able to fight against him, so long as he can get rid of the ability. Ha ha ha, did you eat the fruit too? Luo Ye kid. Shiki flew a kick, and the golden slash went smoothly, and when he kicked that kick, Luo Ye felt it, and when he raised his hand, the same black and red slash flew past. Boom. The slashes converged, hitting in the air and provoked a wave of air, and exploded. Luo Ye's slashes then flew towards Shiki, and Shiki quickly drifted to be able to escape. Lion, Gen, Thousand Slice Valley. Shiki brought out a trace of hideousness in Shiki's eyes, kicking with both feet, accompanied by Hoki's black and gold slash, slashing out in the direction of Luo Ye. This kind of thing, I will. Luo Ye smiled slightly, and the magic knife thousand blades in his hand swept back and forth very quickly, and also issued a large number of black and red slashes, colliding with the slashing on the opposite side. Boom boom boom. The air wave rolled, and the powerful collision aura crushed the ground and mountain peaks underneath, and rolled up clouds of dust, covering the two of them. The stones that were aroused by the crushing of the mountain flew everywhere, and a stone flew to the jungle, piercing a big tree through. Snapped. Luo Ye swung the knife sharply, still sending out a slash, slashing all the smoke and dust to clear the light. The slash flew into the air, and Shiki avoided it. Lion Majesty Katakana middle dot govern place earth coiling. Shiki shook his backhand, and the floating sea created a huge wave, 187 separated from the sea and turned into a floating sea lion head. Lion Majesty Katakana middle dot earth coiling. At the same time, his other hand was still opened, and the lion mountain reappeared on the earth. One soil and one water, one place and one day, one after the other, simultaneously attacking Luo Ye. Shiki's pupils tightened, his arms were covered in color, and he crossed up to block. At the same time, his feet spread out, one sword bends forward, and the other sword is handed forward. It's useless. When? Sword skill. It's so much. Interesting. Boom. This trick. Shiki only felt chills all over his body, feeling as if his body was surrounded by cut blades. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Since he is flying in the air, he can't fly everywhere. You are waiting. As soon as Luo Ye separated, he immediately turned around and chopped off the sea lion head that had reached the back by him. Shiki's sword blocked Luo Ye's swing, but his other sword and wrist also made a crisp sound as if it had been slashed. Luo Ye stepped on the air and went straight up. Boring. Shiki pushed his feet against Luo Ye's blade and kicked him away, spinning around in the air to reoccupy the heights. He took a deep look at Luo Ye, who was standing at low altitude, and there were deep wounds on his wrists. Shiki's own hand was almost cut off. Luo Ye's eyes were bright red, and he had already felt the color when he saw it. He retracted his sword and returned to its sheath, facing the rushing golden lion. Brush. However, at this moment, the golden lion swooped over, his feet close together, his two swords merged into one, and shot straight past like a shuttle. Chapter 152. Advertise here. Shiki bluffed his fingers, and the cut sea water suddenly scattered to Luo Ye in all directions, and gathered in Luo Ye's direction. Luo Ye's eyes narrowed, his left hand stretched out his sword and waved, an array of 8 trigrams that others could not see appeared at Luo Ye's feet. Kanzi Flood Dragon. Shiki suddenly felt that the seawater that he was controlling towards Luo Ye was out of his control, turned into a few seawater flood dragons flying around Luo Ye, and then under the command of Luo Ye, it attacked him. As Luo Ye cut out a few flood dragons, Shiki looked dignified. He kicked out a few slashes and cut away the bodies of these sea flood dragons, but soon recovered. It's not only the shape of a dragon, but there is also a dangerous aura inside. After all, it is made of sea water. It will be very troublesome if it is touched. There is no need to feel it personally. Shiki discovered the anomaly of these seawater dragons just by looking at it, and he must not be able to touch it. No matter what other things are inside, it is simply composed of seawater so that he cannot easily approach it. Lion Majesty Katakana middle dot Gosho Yumaki. He held it with one hand, and the distant seawater rushed over and turned into a few water lion heads, gathered around him, like a meteorite, falling towards Luo Ye. The dragon next to Luo Ye rushed up and entangled with the water lion. Luo Ye looked at Shiki in the sky and was about to use the slash. At this moment, there was a shock behind him, and the stones and dirt gathered together and swelled into a lion mountain, swallowing it towards him. Hoon word. Luo Ye turned around to control the lion mountain. Suddenly, his pupils contracted and his arms turned into an afterimage. The posture of the newly turned body was immediately changed, and the body twisted and slashed to his side. When the blade clashed with the blade, and the golden lion appeared to his side, grinning. Boom. A ball of water lion head suddenly appeared from under the feet of the golden lion to the center of Luo Ye. The water pressure and the force brought by the high-speed movement made his body unstable, and he staggered to the side. The flaw was in that moment. Ha ha ha. Golden lion staggered Luo Ye's knife and kicked it straight towards his body. Boom. The sword blade covered with armed colors hit Luo Ye's clothes and stayed on his clothes, which were also covered with armed colors. Nani. At this moment, Luo Ye also stabilized his body and pierced Golden Lion's heart with a stab. Boom. The Golden Lion was stabbed in the center with a sword by Luo Ye. Its powerful force made him take a few steps backwards, coughing up blood from his mouth. At the same time, Luo Ye was also kicked by Golden Lion and moved a step to the side. Brush. Luo Ye did not sit idle after moving a step, cut a water lion head from the side with a knife, turned into a few water balls, and then turned into a dragon flying around, and then looked at the Golden Lion. Luo Ye's legs in the air were in the shape of a horse, and the magic knife Chinbian quickly entered the scabbard. Yi round cut. Click. The blade, into the sheath. Laugh. A circular slash shot out from Luo Ye in all directions, slashing away the head of the water lion, and Luo Ye's flood dragon was also destroyed by Shiki. Luo Ye looked up at Golden Lion, who wiped the blood from his mouth and looked at him. The two looked at each other, and at the same time wiped out a smirk. Luo Ye said, "Old things, don't use this kind of tricks. It's not a trick to let me cut you down." Shiki smiled boldly, unaffected by Luo Ye. "How long can you stop me?" Several huge water lion heads resurfaced in the sea. After a while, the earth also swelled up the mountain and attacked Luo Ye with the golden lion. It's really annoying. The hockey on the blade of Luo Ye was even more violent. He stepped on the moonwalk and smashed a mountain with his hand, and then greeted the golden lion. The magic knife thousand blades slashed fiercely and touched the golden lion's double swords. When the blades crossed, and the two bodies moved extremely quickly. Shiki smiled slyly, and his feet kept rising and falling. Although he used his feet, his cutting power and sword skills were exquisite. But when facing Luo Ye, he would still be pierced by the magic knife thousand blades. Luo Ye staggered Shiki's sword, turned around, and slashed towards his head. Ding! Golden Lion's right leg bends high and blocked Luo Ye with a knife. With his knee facing Luo Ye hit Shiki with a smooth fist, and slashed away a ball of water lion with a backhand. Kanzi. The water mass that had been cut in two turns into two dragons, rushing towards the other water lions. Then, Luo Ye seemed to feel something, and walked away from the original position on the moonwalk. A golden slash shot from Luo Ye's original direction, and fell on the ground to plow a deep gully. Luo Ye didn't even look at it. The backhand just cut out the same slash. Shiki flew away from a high altitude, dodged the slash, and turned towards Luo Ye. Lion Thousand Slice Valley. Swipe it. Rotating high in the sky, the golden slash fell like rain, pouring down like a barrage. Okay. After Luo Ye noticed the position of Momosugi and Robin, Luo Ye swung the knife and cut again. His body changed direction as the golden lion moved, and touched the golden slash with the black and red slash. The same as flying slashing. On this, Luo Ye's slashing power is far stronger than Shiki's slashing. Shiki can only use the number to accumulate. But Golden Lion Shiki has an extra ability. Suddenly, Luo Ye jumped away and saw a rock protruding from the ground, turning into a sharp thorn. Of course this kind of thing has no effect on his arm color, but if it is hit, it will reveal a flaw. Armament hockey is not an absolute defensive barrier, if it is hit. Although it won't be hurt, it's the same as the rest. The strong, facing the armed color, can still repel it. Similarly, this thorn will still cause Luo Ye's body to lag. Shiki, who was constantly pouring and slashing in the air, smiled, shaking with one hand. It was the same old-fashioned, lion heads were condensed in the sea and on the ground. At the same time, the ground surged, and a large number of ground thorns were twisted and formed. Look at how you respond. This ability has been developed to such an extent, there is really no way. Luo Ye swept away the nearby stabbings with a single knife, ignoring the flying slash, retracting the knife into its sheath. Space. The magic knife with 1,000 blades gradually came out of its sheath. Hundreds of sword oars cut through the space and began to spread around Luo Ye. What a joke. Shiki's pupils appeared red, and his sights and sounds were fully opened, his legs and feet suddenly moved, and he broke free of the lock of space. He was about to fly away, but he felt that he was still locked. It was locked by Luo Ye's knife. Dino. And the golden lion above. That space slash was barely avoided by him, otherwise, that slash could kill a person. Unlike this, it just chopped off an arm. The golden lion was panting in the sky, and his left arm was empty. People on the island can only see a terrifying aura erupting from the sky. An arm fell on the ground gone. Cut. Stop me, or I will destroy this place, including the woman next to you. Shiki hugged his shoulders, looked at Luo Ye, and suddenly laughed boldly. Yes, that's great. If it was before, I will be ready to deal with you again. But I have already lost once, to the kid with Roger's straw hat, so this time I can't retire, so, let's split it up. Quote. I'm Golden Lion. Armament hockey was almost curled into an air current at the blade. Shiki slashed directly at the surrounding space. Judge. Damn it, these two monsters. Similarly, Luo Ye made the knife very quickly. Luo Ye's figure appeared beside Momosugi. Boom. Momosugi looked at Luo Ye next to him and was relieved when he found that Luo Ye had no wounds on his body. Chapter 153. Advertise here. Luo Ye took a breath on the ground, gripped the handle of the knife, and stepped on the air again. Luo Ye, little one. After hearing Momosugi's instructions, Luo Ye looked back at Momosugi and nodded. Shiki in the sky kept panting, watching Luo Ye walking up slowly, and quickly adjusted his state, forcibly using his muscles to block the blood flowing out. For the current Golden Lion Shiki, Luo Ye in front of him is a formidable enemy that he has never encountered before. Even when Garp and Sengoku joined forces, they didn't hurt themselves as quickly and seriously as Luo Ye. They need to be taken more seriously. Although the rudder affected his performance, he didn't care about such past events. From the current point of view, Luo Ye's swordsmanship is not weaker than his own, and it can even make himself suffer. Before putting on a lot of high-level armed colors, his physical strength didn't even decrease in the slightest. After all, those who can cover the flying slash are all high-level armed colors or even emission. After so many releases, even Shiki can't take it anymore. In the back, he just releases the flying slash. And Luo Ye can be released unexpectedly. The high-level armed color is not a rotten cabbage, it can be put at hand. And the kid underneath is not only a high-level armed color, but also covered with conquerors from time to time, as well as his strange ability to manipulate water to transform into a dragon, as well as his sword skills to surpass his own slashing, which should also consume a lot of physical energy. Therefore, Shiki intends to use his fruit power to consume a wave of Luo Ye's physical strength, not to weaken Luo Ye's physical strength to the same level as his own, at least not to crush himself like the current 190. While Luo Ye stepped in the air while looking at Shiki, who was missing an arm in the sky, he did not relax his vigilance. After all, he is a legendary pirate. If he is too proud, he will overturn the car. However, looking at the opponent's appearance, he intends to use his ability to polish himself, which is also normal. The top combat power on the sea is besides himself, and which of those guys fights for a few days and nights to determine the winner. Devil fruit has the power to surpass miracles. A person who eats devil fruit and transforms into a capable person is enough to cause that miracle. But it also depends on people. If the user is not able to endure enough, it will not lead to miracles. But Luo Ye can be sure that the golden lion, Shiki in front of him is definitely one of the people who caused the miracle. No matter which world you are in, natural celestial phenomena are the most terrible natural disasters. And golden lion happens to be a part of master. Mountains, seas, rain and clouds are all in his master. A large number of water masses floated in the sea, and the land of the islands was also shaking and splitting, converging into huge peaks. At the top of the peaks, a lion's head full of madness was condensed, roaring at Luo Ye. Under the blessing of the mountains and seas, the golden lion rushed towards Luo Ye, only using two armed swords to fight Luo Ye. Luo Ye held a magic knife with 1,000 blades. While fighting the golden lion, he would cut off the mountain and sea with slashes from time to time. There is not much difference between the two sides in swordsmanship. As for the gap between the swords, every time the magic sword is broken into pieces and crosses the golden lion's knives, the double-blade golden lion's other sword with emission will attack, so that the gap between the two swords will be minimized. While one is capable as a support, the other is covered in armed colors. Here, he missed you with a knife, and then a mass of rocks fell on him and was blocked by Haki. You returned with a slash over there, but was dodged by the flight, and then slashed on the mountain. The two sides were struggling with you and me, but the nearby surface was gradually fragmented. In the sky, a golden figure fluttered wantonly, kicking out a golden slash from time to time. Then a black figure continued to follow, and the black and red slashes continued to rise, cutting the mountain and the water mass, and the two recovered again and again. Then, the black-red breath and the golden breath collided. When Shiki blocked Luo Ye's slash with 1 foot, Luo Ye's huge force forced Shiki to float backward for a few steps. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Luo Ye slashed back again. Shiki was startled and quickly flew up. Laugh. Shiki flashed into the air and gasped for a few breaths, but this was still slow, and a new wound appeared on his body. At this moment, the blood on his broken arm was dry, his clothes were badly damaged, and his whole body was covered with stab wounds. God avoid. Before Shiki's words fell, Luo Ye swung a knife, and the half-moon-shaped black-red slash was entangled with the red lightning and flew high. Shiki kicked out with the same slash, the golden slash hit the black-red slash. However, after only a while, Luo Ye's slash cut through Shiki's slash and flew towards him. Shiki flashed sideways, grinning. Do you still use Roger's moves? Kid. Luo Ye also grinned. Anyway, you will definitely die. Isn't it okay to let you see what you miss before you die? Ha ha ha. Shiki's body crashed down, and several deep holes in his body were slowly bleeding. Shiki exerted his strength to control his falling body, and spit out a big mouthful of blood. Damn the rudder. Golden Lion staggered to his feet in the air, with a trace of hideousness in his eyes. Come to bother me at this time. But, God avoid it. Shiki, trembling in the air, suddenly laughed nostalgic. Your swordsmanship is really interesting. You can actually use Roger's swordsmanship. Ha ha ha. As he said, he highlighted the ferociousness, but this is just a mere swordsmanship. What if Roger does come? I'm Golden Lion. Shiki grabbed the rudder on his head abruptly, and with a pouch, the rudder was pulled out of his head with a thick blood. With this pull, the world changes color. Robin in the distance only felt dizzy, his body fell down and half-kneeled on the ground. Why, what's wrong? Momosuke opened his eyes wide, but looked in the direction of Golden Lion, with a look of horror. No way. The Vinsmoke family stared at the terrifying figure of Shiki in the sky. Rumble. The sky seemed to be covered with a layer of haze, and the sound of muffled thunder continued to sound, and an extremely depressed breath filled the space between heaven and earth. Luo Ye swallowed dryly, and looked at the Golden Lion who pulled off the rudder and laughed boldly. The corners of his mouth twitched a few times. Hey, isn't it? Doesn't it hurt? He pulled off the rudder. The Golden Lion who pulled off the rudder Luo Ye had never thought about it, but it would go deep into his head and forcibly pull it out would kill him. The breath of Golden Lion was declining crazily, but correspondingly, that madness was also surging up. This old guy is really desperate. Countless broken stones hit the 1,000 blades of magic knife that was shattered around Luo Ye, making a crackling sound. It is not ability, but the airflow induced by Golden Lion makes the surrounding vibrate. Conquerors. Ha ha ha. Between heaven and earth, the Golden Lion laughed wildly. The famous sword Sakura Toku and Muku tied with his feet pulled away from his legs, one fell on his only hand, and the other floated around him. Shiki held the hilt tightly and pointed at Luo Ye. Boy, take it, speed, extremely fast, call, not to mention that this is not Golden Lion's original strength, just using feet and hands are two concepts. Boom. The Golden Lion had appeared there and struck it with a sword. Fierce sword aura mixed with red lightning was generated from the collision between the two swords, and everyone on the ground was still hit by the terrifying conquerors and fell to the ground. Luo Ye held the sword in his right hand to smash and slash. The power of the slash made Luo Ye's movements a little stagnant. Luo Ye was surprised when he felt the sensation in his hand. Slashing flew in. Luo Ye slashed backhand and slashed at that handmang. The power of this slash is simply not comparable to before. Boom. High-level hockey mixed with a little conqueror's golden slash, turned into a black and gold slash, and rushed down towards Luo Ye with one blow. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Luo Ye quickly turned around and swung his sword. Senior Hockey was entangled in the blade like a whirlwind. He also slashed out. The black and red slashes collided in the air, which shocked the space between the two again. Night slash wave. Slash wave. A cold light resounded from around Luo Ye. Shiki took advantage of Luo Ye's distraction and swung a sword again. Chapter 154. Advertise here. When Luo Ye and Shiki wrestle with each other, Shiki laughed at the sword that Luo Ye was constantly suppressing. Boom. The air in front of Luo Ye suddenly blasted Luo Ye away like a cannonball, and huge stone pillars protruded from some rocks on the island. Luo Ye flew back and hit a big rock that suddenly swelled. The rock shattered and his body was buried in it. In the next instant, the surrounding stones separated. Luo Ye was wrapped in armor like armor, and he sighed slightly, his face a little ugly. This old guy is even more difficult. Can the air be manipulated? I accidentally asked. Sure enough, there is still a small amount of hockey. Shiki smiled and said, boy, if you don't try your best, you might die. Luo Ye swiped a knife and blown away the surrounding gravel. The phantom of a black dragon appeared on him again, and the distant sea water formed a water-shaped dragon hovering in it. Huh, the novel is a big talk. I have reserved 1 billion points of strength just in case. I thought that this kind of strength was enough to deal with you. Now it seems that you, an old fellow, desperately it seems to be a little too close. Quote. Ha ha ha, don't be ashamed. Hearing that, Shiki appeared hideous, and his body burst out. The entangling aura of his body caused a deep ravine to plow the ground below him. Humph. Luo Ye waved his blade again, and a terrifying slash slashed towards the Golden Lion Shiki, and the terrifying killing intent followed. However, this time, Golden Lion Shiki couldn't avoid slashing, and Luo Ye's slashing slashed in the past. The black and gold slashes blocked the black and red slashes, facing the substance that followed. So murderous, Golden Lion Shiki glasses thumped hard. The murderous aura gradually dissipated in this sight. Conqueror's hockey. Rao, Robin and others who were watching the game from a distance, couldn't help being shocked by this look. Conquerors, the top powerhouse, they feel it. Lee Z Suzaku. Ignoring Shiki's Conqueror's hockey, Luo Ye quickly wiped his 2 fingers across the blade and sparked, forming a flame that enveloped his body and gradually expanded. With a bright cry, the flame formed a huge flame bird and rushed towards the Golden Lion. Oh, does this Udaman contains your sword intent? Shiki smiled and slashed at the huge flame bird, and the flame bird flew towards Shiki. The two sides crossed, the flame bird flew on top of it, and the body dissipated halfway, revealing Luo Ye's figure. However, in the next instant, the dissipated form was completed again and turned into a flame bird again. Philadelphia. But even if Marco comes here in person, it's nothing more than that. Shiki slammed a slash and broke through the phoenix's body again. Boom. Suddenly, the heads of the floating water lions fell down a few times, Shiki's body became unstable, and his body was slightly lowered, and the sword floating around him almost fell. Seeing this scene, Luo Ye squinted slightly, and said, old guy, you're dying. Ha ha ha, it's still early. Shiki smiled boldly, it's enough to kill you before then. Yes. Luo Ye scattered the flame Suzaku, stood upright, floated the blade, and said seriously to Golden Lion, old guy, the last trick, take it. This time, Luo Ye wiped the blade with his 2 fingers very slowly, and a black dragon slowly appeared behind Luo Ye. Is this your strongest move? Shiki looked at Luo Ye. Luo Ye nodded. It's barely considered. It's really strong, but I'm a Golden Lion. Shiki smiled excitedly and flew up, heading straight to the emptiness behind Luo Ye. The golden body looked extremely small in front of the black dragon, but that madness formed a huge shadow of a lion. Open your mouth to swallow the dragon. Boom. The black dragon was smashed by Shiki's Golden Lion Phantom. Luo Ye looked at Shiki, who was rushing towards him, and squinted a little. Call. For a moment everything was still, but it seemed to have brought the wind, blowing forward from behind Luo Ye, blowing Golden Lion Shiki's golden hair, making him subconsciously squinted. Brush. At the moment when the wind was floating, Luo Ye's figure appeared behind the Golden Lion Shiki. The speed could not be said to have changed in the blink of an eye. Even with his eyes open, he did not see how Luo Ye moved, like a ghost. Generally. That slashing attack seemed to be a slashing out. Luo Ye maintained the posture that he had just slashed. Then he pulled a knife and inserted the blade into the scabbard. What's the matter? The kid is coming. Shiki, who had disappeared from the shadow of the lion around his body, turned to look at Luo Ye's back and roared. No, I don't need it anymore. At this time, Luo Ye slowly retracted the knife into its sheath, turning his head to look at Shiki in the sky with complicated eyes. Shiki didn't speak this time, just standing in the sky. A sword floating around him crashed down. At the same time, there were the rising waves and boulders that fell around. 0. Look for flowers. It's lost. Shiki smiled stiffly. Shiki raised his head, slowly raised his one arm, and stretched out his 5 fingers to the sky. So that's it, my time has long passed. The sword in his hand fell off with his movements, and both swords fell in front of Luo Ye at the same time. Oh, old lion, isn't it enough for someone like you to be buried in the sea that gallops all your life after death? Hey, wait a minute, I have something to tell you. Luo Ye looked at Shiki, who fell from the sky into the sea. Such a strong person would not cause any terrifying effects when he died. Luo Ye's words caused Judge, who was slowly playing with a spear, to tremble. He turned his head and looked at Luo Ye. He couldn't help but tremble and said, what else do you want to do? Can we give up? Can't you admit it wrong? Could he say that looking at the terrifying strength of the Golden Lion, in case he was defeated by both sides? No one dared to let go of cruel words to Luo Ye. Luo Ye looked at the Vinsmoke family, who seemed to have been lying there for a long time, covered in dust but kept still, and asked. Only a few people have image bugs in their hands. Righteous. The living Vinsmoke has an influence on the world government, and the dead Vinsmoke is worthless. Soldiers from the 4 countries looked at the destroyed islands, looked at each other, and hurriedly ran towards their respective countries. They didn't abandon their weapons, they just wanted to run faster. I was afraid that Luo Ye would expose his fierceness just now and leave them here. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Okay, why haven't you left yet? Quote. The black suit on his body was not very dirty. Judge was silent for a while, and walked back step by step with his spear. When the others saw Judge retreating, they followed silently. Judge pursed his lips, what can he say? Back on the island, I glanced at the trembling Judge and Reiju and the 3 people who were still not convinced. Luo Ye didn't pay attention to them. The bad environment on the island had been destroyed by Shiki's use of abilities. But look at what Luo Ye looks like. Seeing Judge, who was about to cry in front of him, Luo Ye glanced at his mouth and walked over to Judge. What I want to tell you is not that kind of thing. Isn't your purpose to make your family famous? I have one here. Plan, come and listen. He was able to pick it up. Not only could he swallow the treasure map shared by the 4 countries, but he could also take advantage of the opportunity to solve the Golden Lion, and his reputation has been greatly shaken ever since. Chapter 155. Advertise here. New world, in the gloomy sky. Luo Ye took Momosugi and Robin flying in the sky. Luo Ye and others, who had recently reached an agreement with the Vinsmoke family, planned to cross the calm belt and directly enter the new world, but they never wanted to be caught in a terrible storm on the second day of entering the new world. The boat was broken. Luo Ye had to take the 2 beauties and flew in the air with the word, Sunda. After flying for a few hours, Luo Ye found his destination. It was a huge mountainous island, covering almost half of the island. On this island, there is a huge town connected from the port to the center of the island. Luo Ye looked in the sky for a while, then descended. The stormy weather just covered the sight of others. Luo Ye took the 2 of them to a corner of the port town and walked out of the corner. The rainstorm made the streets seem very few people. Some people walked by wearing hooded cloaks. The surrounding houses were all low-rise bungalows. The roofs of many houses were simply repaired and they were very poor at first sight. But the strange thing about 190 is that the streets of this place are very clean. Just ask where this is. Luo Ye stepped forward, preparing to walk out of the alley, but at this moment, a hand grabbed his ankle. Okay. The 3 of them turned around, and saw a rickety man who was almost lying on the ground under the rainstorm was shrinking in the corner. Without knowing where his strength was, this man's thin hand grabbed his ankle tightly and lifted it up. The head looks like a skeleton, full of longing. This little brother, there are 2 other beauties, give me some rewards, I haven't eaten for 3 days. Luo Ye glanced at him, stretched out his palm, and inexplicably dropped a piece of very good quality fur under the heavy rain. He stretched out his hand, everything is under this fur, he separated the fur and flew to the person. I don't have money. Kabuto pants are cleaner than my face. I never bring money when I go out. This fur looks pretty good. You can exchange it for money. Luo Ye moved his foot and pulled away the man's hand. Listening to Luo Ye's words, the corners of Momosagi's mouth couldn't help but twitch. After all, the money was in the boat, and it sank with the boat. Is there food? Food is okay. I don't need money. The man pleaded. Luo Ye frowned. They said that I have no money, and I have hands and feet. Can't I even replace it? Do you want me to go out? You bad guy, I will never go out. The beggar gritted his teeth, stood up without knowing where his strength was, and didn't pick up that piece of fur. He bumped Luo Ye, then ran into the corner, and quickly disappeared. During the heavy rain, only his voice remained. I won't go out, I won't be taken away by them. This person. Luo Ye was stunned, raised his hand to float the fur on the ground, and grabbed it on the ground. What's wrong? Momosagi. I don't know, but this island doesn't feel very good. Robin. Luo Ye shook his head at the two people and walked out of the alley. Outside the street is the port. After the three Luo Ye left the alley, they turned their eyes and narrowed their eyes slightly. There are many ships staying in the port. But these ships are basically pirate ships, scattered with strange signs, like merchant ships, but they don't look like they are doing serious business. The town of pirates. Don't remember that much. Luo Ye touched his chin and glanced at his black trench coat. Well, now that he is not wearing a black suit, so many people wouldn't know him in principle, especially on this rainy day. Just in case, Luo Ye took out a hat from the system and put it on, and found two cloaks to cover the attractive faces of the two beauties. Okay, done. After doing this, Luo Ye went to the street with Kabuto in one hand and fur in the other. Seeing and hearing the color, also covered the whole island at this moment. The old rules, first see if there are any strong ones. Just at the moment when he saw and heard the color spread, Luo Ye frowned and realized that things were not simple. This emotion, numbness, anger, resentment, fear, worry, these negative emotions are all within his induction. This is basically the mood in the whole town. In a few places, there are emotions such as happiness and greed. It's completely polarized. Luo Ye turned his head and saw that the windows of the bungalows in front of him were obviously opened. When he received his eyes, the windows were directly pulled, and some of the sounds inside could be heard faintly. Hush, they found us. Hurry up and hide. They can't be seen by him, they will be taken away. Mom, I'm afraid. Don't be afraid of it, Mom is here, you will be fine. God, save us. The sound came into Luo Ye's ears from several bungalows. He looked at these closed windows with thoughtfulness. Go and see first. Luo Ye took Momosagi and walked towards the only place in the neighborhood that exuded greed and happiness. Under the influence of seeing and hearing, the most people gathered there. It was a tavern, with a wine glass sign in front of the tattered wooden door. The door was closed, but a loud noise came from the tattered hole. With a squeak, Luo Ye opened the door. The scene inside was a group of guys with strong or vicious faces, either with knives or guns in their waists. Seeing someone pushing the door in, some people looked at him. They just glanced at him and didn't care. This seems to be commonplace. Others looked up and down Luo Ye and Momosagi and Robin, whose bodies were covered by cloaks behind them, with scrutinizing eyes. This group of people is different from the wild attire of the pirates, but they wear a little stiff, especially the people who look like the leader, who are basically dressed in formal clothes. Luo Ye is very familiar with this type of person. When he was at Marine, he had killed many people of this type. Unscrupulous businessmen, and most of them, are human traffickers. They were looking at Luo Ye, and Luo Ye was looking at them. After taking a look, he walked to the bar, put his fur on the table, and faced the strong and full-faced humanity in the bar. Excuse me, how much do you want to change for this thing? This type of tavern can generally serve as a pawn shop, including the head of a pirate offering a reward. The bar owner swept his eyelids and looked at Luo Ye again. He glanced at the magic knife chinbana on his waist, then picked up the fur. Just touching it, his gaze fluctuated a bit, and he was obviously agitated. Angus. The bar owner's expression changed. Hey. You want to buy? Luo Ye looked over. An unscrupulous businessman walked over with a few younger brothers and said, that's the fur of the winged lion. I want to collect 100,000 Baileys. Dick, are you really okay? Quote. No, I mean, it's just that I can take it here, and other places will be even harder. Luo Ye knew at a glance that this person had deliberately lowered the price, and he had pressed it very hard. Just as the bar owner picked up the fur and his face was joyful, a frivolous voice rang next to him. The little brothers behind him all laughed at once, showing threats one by one. He was calm, put down the fur lightly, and said in disgust. After all, the fur was only killed and put in the system backpack a long time ago, and it only occupies 5.7 square meters, so it is better to change some food and drink. But he didn't care about this, he was pressured, he didn't care much about money or something, with the Golden Emperor as a subordinate. 100,000 Baileys. Okay, I'll take it first. He quickly took out the gun from his waist, pointed at Luo Ye, grinned and said, how about giving it to me? The man called Angus approached, grabbed the fur from Dick's boss, and said, this wool is very well preserved, and the craftsmanship is also good. It's worth at least 5 million Baileys. Brother, it's better. Forget it, it doesn't matter. Give me a change. Let's have a meal and wine, and please tell me what is this place. Chapter 156. Advertise here. White whoring. Luo Ye looked at it in surprise. Are you New World people so courageous? He. Angus opened the hammer with his finger and aimed the gun at Luo Ye's temple, saying, I'm very honest in doing business, your life, change your fur, your clothes, and the clothes on your waist. That knife and these two women, although they can't see their looks, they have great figures. It's a bargain. I miss so many things. Luo Ye nodded and looked at the other people. By the way, even if you get it, can you snatch it from these people? Ha ha ha, what do you think this is? Angus laughed and said, this is the lawless kingdom, Klein. Whether it is the pirate or us, you can do whatever you want here, but you must also follow the rules. I will do it first, then you are mine. Quote. Give it to him. Boss Dick said. I advise you, if you don't want to die, give it to him. Yes, leave it to me in exchange for your life. Angus laughed in a low voice and leaned the pistol against Luo Ye's head. At the same time, he took out the cigar box from his arms and stretched it out to let the little brother open it. A little brother was about to take out the cigar and put it in Angus's mouth. Laugh. At this moment, a black light shining from around them, bright light shining on this somewhat gloomy tavern. Angus and his little brother, while the black glow flickered, separated from their chests directly into two halves, a large amount of blood rushed to the rear, staining the floor with blood red. Snapped. Luo Ye took the cigar box that fell from the sky in 09, and sat down on the seat in front of the bar. In other words, in the opposite direction, if I kill you, I am also the first to do it. Your things are mine too. He took out a cigar in the cigar box and clamped it in his mouth. He didn't even look at the dead body on the ground. Forget it, anyway, you can't hear it anyway. Forget it, you acquiesced. Hey, boss, give you this fur. The cleaning fee is included. The old style, food and wine, lend me a fire. Luo Ye said lightly. Momosuke and Robin behind them shrugged and sat down beside Luo Ye. Hellos. Boss Dick glanced at Luo deeply, put away the fur, hesitated for a while, and said, I just remembered it wrong. This thing is worth 5 million, but here is not so high for you, 1 million Baileys. Is it okay? Casual. Luo Ye shrugged, and then glanced left and right. The group of people was stunned for a while under his knife, and then they began to whisper. Idiot. A table of pirates sneered there and said, I'm alone in this place. I rushed forward without thinking about it. Or, I gave us a test. Hey, did you see his attack just now? No, it's too fast, I don't know how to attack, but he must be a swordsman. A group of people were discussing with each other there, but they were only surprised at such an attack, but none of them were scared. You're fire. Boss Dick passed a box of matches. Luo Ye took it, wiped the match, and lit his cigar. Call. He spit out a mouthful of smoke and smacked his mouth. This smell, inferior goods, forget it, it's better than nothing. He bit his cigar, clicked his finger on the table, and snarled at the noisy scene behind him, and said, this place has always been like this. Tell me. Is this the first time? The boss of Dick took a glass for Luo Ye, put ice cubes, poured a glass of wine, and said, Klein Kingdom is like this. This is the famous, lawless kingdom, of New World. No matter who you are, you can only come here. Everything can be obtained by force. Quote. Oh, the kingdom doesn't care. Kingdom. Dick's boss shook his head and said in a self-deprecating manner. The kingdom even supports it, but only for pirates and illegal businessmen. The citizens of the country are not allowed to do this. You should have seen it when you came. Every house is closed, not only because it is a rainstorm, but even if it isn't, they won't go out rashly. Otherwise, it is not only the traffickers who will be arrested, but the country itself is also arresting people. They need labor to mine. Quote. Klein Kingdom. The king regards this as his playground, and the citizens are just his prey. Dick's voice was heavy, and when he said this, there was a haze on his face unconsciously. Oh, Luo Ye looked at him and said softly, are you a citizen of this country? No, I am not. Dick shook his head and said, I am a pirate, but I have retired. I came here a long time ago to settle down. As he said, he patted his leg and said, you can't see it in the bar. My leg was broken because of a shipwreck, so I can only open a tavern here. They can be regarded as giving me face, knowing that if I am gone, with these people's personalities, there is not even a place where I can drink. Quote. So, the retired old pirate. Luo Ye nodded, just about to say something. Suddenly, there was a laughter next to him. Ha ha ha, stop kidding Dick, who will give you face? A rough man sat over and said, just your stinky temper. Isn't it because you saved the king of Crane? If you kill you, he will be angry. We still want to hunt in this country. Quote. I didn't save him. Dick seemed to be irritated, his pupils shrunk, bloodshot all over his eyeballs, and shouted at the big man. Never. Well, don't be impulsive, Dick, I'm your old friend. The big man waved his hand and said, bring me a glass of wine, and the money for this little brother's food and wine is counted on me. As he said, he looked at Luo Ye, and said, brother, I'm pretty good. Angus is one of the more famous people who came to hunting. He actually killed it for you. Are you interested in coming to me? Pirates. Quote. Luo Ye shook the ice in the drink, narrowed his eyes, pirates. Yes, our double-axe pirate group. The big man patted the two axes on his waist. Join us, you will have everything if you join us. Our captain is a double axe, Rumba, a big pirate who offers a reward of 63 million yuan, and we won't suffer a loss if you join us. Quote. Yeah, Captain Rumba is very strong, brother, you don't seem to be famous. If you join us, you will be rewarded soon, and you will be famous at that time. In a table behind, several pirates were shouting loudly. Oh, that's really scary. Luo Ye shook the glass, took a sip of the wine, and said, the so-called hunting refers to hunting the citizens of this country, right? Quote. Of course. Rumba grinned and said, here, we can all hunt in other places except for not attacking the palace. Wealth and women, as long as you want, you can get it. That's really good, right? What you want can be obtained by strength, right? Luo Ye stared at the wine glass and said lightly. Yes, that's it, join us, I am very optimistic about you. Rumba patted Luo Ye's shoulder vigorously and laughed loudly. Rumba, we are also interested in this man. Suddenly, another table of pirates made a sound. One of them stood up like a captain and said, hey, this little brother, I think you are very strong. Join our pirate group, I will give you a big deal. The position of the deputy, it happened that the first mate died hunting here last time. Let me find out who did it. I won't spare him. Hey, join us, brother, you are also suitable to come to our pirate group. As the captain spoke, the other pirates in the tavern yelled at each other. We are not pirates, but we also need you to join us. Join us as a businessman. The reward is high. In addition to the pirates, the unscrupulous merchants also screamed. Suddenly, the noisy tavern became even more noisy. Hey, brother, you see so many people welcome you, it means you are very popular. But I think it's better to join us, we are the strongest here. Quote. Rumba patted his chest very confidently. Why don't you come to a duel, those who are still here, then I will think about it, how about it? Luo Ye's voice was very soft, but it pierced into the noise accurately and entered their ears. Immediately, the scene fell silent. Everyone was stunned for a moment. Are you kidding me, brother? Rumba's face turned gloomy. Let 190 US fight. Oh, don't you want it? Luo Ye stood up and looked down at him. Didn't you say that, what you want is obtained by strength? I think it makes sense, why not? He stretched out 3 fingers. 3 seconds, I will not kill him who escapes from this tavern. Brother, you are looking for death. Rumba also stood up. He was more than 3 meters taller than Luo Ye. He dropped his hands, held the double axe, and licked his tongue bloodthirstily. It's a pity that you are going to die here. 3. Luo Ye said a number. Die. Rumba raised his double axes and threw them down like thunder. No one can survive under his axe. Call. The breeze passed by at this moment. The man with the fur hat, the knife around his waist seemed to make a scabbard sound, but he didn't see this man making a knife. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Laugh. At this moment, everyone in the tavern seemed to be stagnant, including the big man in front of him, holding an axe, motionless. Only Dick in the bar was able to move. He opened his eyes wide and looked at the motionless and still scene of the tavern, with a little doubt in his eyes. Click. Luo Ye said lightly. Boom boom boom. Everyone's heads, at this moment, all left their bodies. Inside the tavern, with the exception of him and the 2 cloaked ladies, all the people present had their heads flying, and bloody spring water spewed from their necks, and they hit the top of the tavern with their flying heads. This is. Dick opened his mouth wide, and his body trembled unconsciously. Just listen to this person speaking softly. The expressions on their heads kept the savage or disdain or laughter as they were just now, as if they didn't react to the fact that they were already dead. Luo Ye's figure faded for a while, then consolidated again. Inside the tavern, it is like a hell of human heads. Ah, sorry, I can only count 3. After hitting the ceiling of the tavern with his head, he fell again, making a muffled noise on the floor. Chapter 157. Advertise here. In the final analysis, pirates of this level can only mess around in this kind of place. Quote. Luo Ye glanced at these headless corpses, and said with disdain, a big pirate. A scum-like existence, also worthy of being called a big pirate. Big pirate, it is a legend. Roger is a big pirate, 4 Emperors is a big pirate, Golden Lion is a big pirate, and Letterfield is a big pirate. Luffy and their supernova are also qualified as big pirates. This kind of thing is also worthy of being called a big pirate. As early as listening to them, Luo Ye was murderous. They will not live if they are public for private, and for reason. As for the others, will I be exposed? Who knows that he didn't even wear his own suit, and he didn't show his face in his hat. Besides, with such things, even if he reveals his identity, he won't run away from him. Luo Ye bit his cigar, no longer looking at the blood and mess on the ground, turned around and sat back on the stool. These things are enough for you to clean the tavern. By the way, you can renovate this broken tavern. It's damp, so let's renovate it with a bounty and install the door as well. Indeed, this tavern environment needs to be changed. Mature Oni-san's voice came from the cloak beside Luo Ye. When Momoshiki said this, Dick hadn't reacted yet, just staring blankly at this hell-like tavern. Died. All are dead. Obviously these people were still making a noise at that moment, but at this moment, only the expression on his head made him realize that the noise just now was real. But that is just ahead. These people were all killed by this man wearing a hat. Hey, don't watch, let's serve dinner, I'm hungry. Me too. Okay. After Luo Ye knocked on the table to speak, Momosuke and Robin's voice followed. The sound of fingers pressing on the desktop awakened Dick. He looked at Luo Ye in horror. Who are you? It's just your customer now, so much money. He pointed to the corpse in the back and said, isn't you going to be out of service? Or, do you want to find your retired old pirate's identity, and then become like them? Quote. I will do it right away. Dick was agitated, and hurried to the back kitchen, where he started tinkering. Outside the rain, Luo Ye sat quietly on the bar, poured himself a glass of wine, and savored it slowly in the hell of blood and corpses behind him. It tastes good, Luo Ye said with a light smile. Your food. After waiting for a while, Dick rushed from the back kitchen and placed 2 large bowls and a plate on the table. One is fruit, and the other is ordinary meat and potatoes. The plate is filled with noodles, topped with rich tomato sauce and some shrimps. In this world, this is a very common dish. After all, people who open a pub, not a restaurant, just fill up your stomach. Luo Ye is not welcome. He picked up a small piece of bone in the bone meat directly into his mouth. After chewing it, he spit out a small bone and feasted on it. The food disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye until Luo Ye put down his hand. With the last swallow, the food was wiped out. Please use. Dick saw the opportunity and bowed, holding the towel in both hands and handing it over. Ah, thanks. Luo Ye took the towel and wiped his mouth first, and then said while wiping his hands, don't worry, I'm not interested in you, or you would have died just now. That's not it. Dick took a deep breath, suddenly bowed deeply, and said loudly, please save this country. Luo Ye's hand-wiping motion was stagnant, looking at this burly man, his head tilted unconsciously. What? Please. Save this country. Dick straightened up and said excitedly. You are so strong, you can definitely. Defeat Klein Og, save this country, make this country hopeful, you can definitely. The excited expression seemed to see some life-saving straw. Who am I defeating? Luo Ye stunned. Klein Og, the king of this country, the source of everything is him, defeat him. Please, defeat him. His voice started to crack because of the excitement, tears fell from his eyes involuntarily, and he bowed sharply again, his head slammed on the countertop, knocking one end of the table to pieces. Please save this country, he said hoarsely. No, you have to make it clear about something. Luo Ye squeezed his eyebrows with a headache. You are an old pirate, what did you do? Huh. He turned his head and looked in one direction, someone is coming. Step on. Suddenly there was a sound of footsteps from the outside world. Under the heavy rain, the uniform footsteps sounded very clear. From the window of the tavern, a group of soldiers in uniforms with muskets and blades lined up and approached the street. It's Klein's army, they are here to arrest people again. Dick raised his head, ignoring the bloodline on his forehead that had just been knocked out, limped out of the bar, stood by the window, and solemnly said to Luo Ye, just look at it, and you will understand this soon. The cruelty of the country. This Dick's right leg was nailed with a wooden stick from half of his thigh, and it was indeed a broken leg. At the window next to him, the group of soldiers outside stopped just where the window could see. Then, began to smash the door. Boom. The wooden door of a bungalow was easily lifted open, several soldiers rushed in, and then there was a burst of ghost crying and wolf howling inside. No, don't take me away, I have to take care of my children. Don't. Dick smiled bitterly, and then solemnly said, but I offer you a reward of 350 million, and the dignity of the pirate who penetrates Dick's spear will assure you that they will be fine for the time being. Please watch it. Robin and Momosuke both stopped for a while. This bounty is in New World, and it can be regarded as a famous pirate. After all, Luffy is also the bounty, or after doing things like rushing into Annie's lobby. Are you special? Judging from Luo Ye's experience, this person's breath is already weak to the brink, and an ordinary person, no, even a bit weaker than the beggar he encountered before. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Please watch it. A woman in ragged clothes was dragged out by the soldiers, and inside the house, there was a boy about 4 or 5 years old standing there crying. Seeing this scene, Luo Ye got up subconsciously and was about to walk over there. Momosuke also pulled out the long sword from his waist. The beggar still has the will to survive, but this person has no will, and his breath is as dead as a stone. 350 million knots. Under the bondage of the soldiers, the woman was quickly tied with a rope. No matter how she struggled, she couldn't shake the soldiers a bit. Even if she collapsed on the ground, she was dragged away by the soldiers. Essence has long since collapsed. Dick stood in front of his face Dono, and solemnly said to him, this way you can know what this country looks like. This man with a broken leg is so strong. My life died 5 years ago. Luo Ye smacked his lips, aren't you looking for death? He wanted to rush out, but the soldiers blocked the door like a solid wall. Chapter 158. Advertise here. A strong man's spirit and spirit have completely collapsed, and he can't even establish other wills. What kind of blow has it been? Is it in this country? After the soldiers dragged the woman out, they continued to break into other houses and drag the people out. There are men and women. But without exception, they are all in the prime of life, without children or old people. It was not until the 10th one was pulled out that these soldiers stopped breaking in and took the 10 men with them, preparing to leave. 10. Dick said. Every once in a while, they will come to catch 10 people to fill the number of people in the mine. There are only 10, no more, no less, nor will it catch old people and children. It is like a regular fear of the people. The king of this country, Klein Og, regards the people of this country as toys, wantonly juggling. If you don't defeat him, this country will always be like this, so please. When you finish speaking, those people will be taken away. Luo Ye waved his hand at this moment, and his pupils looked out the window, revealing a hint of red. The storm suddenly turned blood red, and the strong conqueror's hockey almost turned into substance, rushing towards the row of soldiers. In an instant, the soldiers stiffened and fell under the rain. It's not over. Luo Ye spit out smoke, walked around Dick, walked out the window and shouted, "Hey, people have passed out, are you still going? Be careful if you get caught in the rain." The people who were tied up didn't seem to respond when they heard this, looking at the fallen 193 soldiers at a loss. Mother. At the beginning of the woman who was dragged out of the house, the little boy rushed out, and the shout made the first woman react. He ran over and hugged her child, hugged her tightly, and knelt down there silently. Tears. They won't leave, Dick said bitterly. This country is like this. The king's rule has numbed them. They have no sense of resistance. Even if those soldiers fall, they will wait for the next wave of soldiers to arrive and take them away. Everyone here, you can't escape. Are you numb? Momosuke looked at this scene and only held the cloak in his hand. Luo Ye frowned, glanced at the 10 people, and asked Dick, "Where is the mine?" "Exist. Forget it, I'll do it myself. Call." The door of the tavern was suddenly opened, and cold wind and rain broke in, making Dick agitated. In front of him, there is no figure of that man. Without Dick's guidance, Luo Ye can sense the biggest gathering place of numb emotions under the perception of seeing, hearing and color, and just go straight to it. The mine of this kingdom was located in an open area among the mountains. When Luo Ye was flying, he felt the nearby magnetic field stabilized, so he opened the watch on the way and made a phone call. Master Luo Ye. There seemed to have been waiting there, and the call was picked up at the moment of the call, and it was the woman next to Tezolo who answered the call. Klein Kingdom, the location of New World, check what's going on here, and pick me up by the way. Luo Ye said. Klein Kingdom. Hey, the location is determined, Klein Kingdom, go and check its location and information. Tezolo seemed to yell at people. Soon, the appearance of the phone worm fluctuated, from a make-up appearance to a strange wretched appearance. Oh, Lord Luo Ye, Kingdom of Klein, I know it below. Huh, Tanaka. Luo Ye froze for a moment, and said, do you know? Hi, what's the situation in Crane Kingdom? Luo Ye asked. Klein, I have heard of it in the next. That country is a hunting ground. It used to be. However, at that time there was no hunting ground, and it was only after the new king took office. But it is not a member country of the world government. Even if Marine has no jurisdiction, it can't be touched. The position of that country is right at the center of the four emperors' power. Quote. The reason why it hasn't been destroyed so far is because it is a shelter for many pirates, and the sea area near it is somewhat special, so it is not cared about. In addition, their king is a bit famous. If you are there, please be careful. Quote. The three regardless zone. I know it. I'll wait for a boat to come and pick us up and hang up. Luo Ye hung up the phone worm and flew towards the spot where the emotions he felt were gathering. The mine is located in an open area beside the mountain of this big island. This is an open pit mine, and even under heavy rain, you can hear the sound of ding ding. Countless people in ragged clothes wielded their hoes and beat the mountain over and over again. Such a figure spreads from the foot of the mountain to the mountainside. From a high place, it looks like an ant marching together. Their eyes were very numb, and under the rainstorm, the hollow mechanics wielded their hoes there, as if this was their life. Snapped. In the heavy rain, a whip suddenly hit one of them. Among these people, a tall, plump, trembling man wielded his whip and almost turned into an afterimage in the heavy rain. After hitting that person, he quickly threw it out and appeared on the other person's back. Bang bang bang. The sound of the whip hitting the flesh exploded. It's too slow, you untouchables. The fat man wielded his whip and shouted, hurry up, quicker, and mine faster. How can you satisfy King Og's needs like this? He has to wait for the money you earn to enjoy what? Being struck by the whip, these people didn't notice it, and they were still mining mechanically. Whispering sound. The fat man quenched with disdain, his eyes were set on the only small one among these people, and he smiled evilly. You are still the funniest, sage. He was watching a black-haired teenager. He was thinner than the others in the mine, and his exposed skin was covered with whip scars. Compared to others, he seemed to have suffered the most injuries. This boy was different from the others, staring at the fat man at this time. No. The young man named Sage pursed his mouth, lowered his head again, and slammed his hoe against the stone. That posture seemed to treat him like this fat man. Snapped. A whip hit his back mercilessly. Sarger grunted and stopped waving, but instead, holding his hoe tightly, he turned to look at the fat man. The knuckles of Sarger's grip on the hoe began to turn white. He took a deep breath and continued to dig up the ore. It's strange. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Huh. Barber looked over and saw that the man holding his whip was a man in a black trench coat and a black hat. The falling whip was held by one hand. He licked his lips and smiled. If you resist, it will be fun, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. The fat man seemed to have seen something new and strange, and said, for so long, I have seen this kind of look again. It's so interesting, why not resist me. He raised the whip high, you go to death for me, Sarger. Brush. Luo Ye glanced around and said, it seems that you are the only one here, so many people don't resist. I call. A gust of wind blows. The whip fell suddenly. Revolt. Sage. Hearing this, the fat man's face sank. In this case, then. I won't fight you, Minister Barber. Chapter 159. Advertise here. Sager stared at the person who appeared suddenly. You are. Here comes a nosy. Barber looked at Luo Ye up and down, and said, foreigners must abide by the rules and go hunting in other places. The palace and the mine are forbidden. People like you are not allowed to come close. We have made an agreement long ago, haven't we? I don't remember that I had such an agreement with you. If you have an agreement or something, you go to the person who agreed. Luo Ye shrugged and said. He looked around. In addition to the boy's reaction to his appearance, everyone else was numb at work. As for this open pit mine, he was very sure that there was only this overseer, not even a soldier. It's all like this, but I still don't resist. Is this country so degenerate? Or, it really became a hunting ground. It makes people uncomfortable. Luo Ye smacked his mouth, moved his hand, grabbed the whip, and threw it away, trying to get rid of this ugly fat pig. However, at this moment, Barber directly let go of the whip and quickly struck Luo Ye with a punch. It's all said. Don't be nosy, pirate. Boom. The fist was thrown out, causing Luo Ye's pupils to shrink, and he subconsciously flicked his head back before avoiding the opponent's fist. He was surprised. Hockey. Hello, just you. A layer of hockey was directly wrapped on this fat man's fist. And judging from his attainments, it seems to be very deep. Oh, can you see hockey? You understand. Barber stretched out his fists, a layer of almost greenish black struck his fists, and hockey stretched to his elbows. He grinned and said, so, let's be nosy. Hey, you go. Sager shouted. Don't come here anymore. There were people who came here before, but they were all killed by Minister Barber. You are not his opponents. Here, there is no hope for a long time. Boom. As soon as Sag's words fell, Barber's elephant-like figure jumped up, his feet stiffly formed a deep footprint on the mined rocky soil, and he punched Luo Ye at the same time. Roared. Who allowed you to speak? Sag. Boom. The ground was shattered by this punch, and the shock wave shook the sage next to him. He flew out and rolled on the ground a few times. Good skill. Able to dodge my attack. It's strange that a pirate like you will come to this island like those garbage. Barber withdrew his fist from the cracked ground, and looked inquiringly at Luo Ye who had escaped. This guy. Luo Ye frowned from behind, looking at the ground that was smashed out of a big hole. So strong, if you don't get rid of those pirates, but oppress your own people, you are also a weird thing. It's just a pariah who won't resist. Barber squeezed his fist, looked at the people still mining with disdain, and sneered. The purpose of these people is to make your highness and me feel fun, that's all. He opened his hand, exposing a mouthful of white fang, and said with a big smile in the face of the rainstorm, fun. Life is high. It's the most fun to watch them become prey without resisting each and every day. It's a pity that no one resists. If there is resistance, it will be more fun. Quote. Really? Luo Ye's eyes sank, and he grasped the hilt of the knife. I am hopeless. Call. In the heavy rain, a breeze was rolled up. When, at this moment, Barber's pupils shrank and his hand slammed in front of him. He heard a crisp sound. A spark was stirred up on his arm, and a deep scar appeared on his arms full of arms. Luo Ye's figure appeared behind him, surprised, seeing and hearing. You are also very accomplished, and you look very calm and strange. It's very strange. Such a person shouldn't have such a strong strength. Moreover, it is strange that such a person would maintain such a calmness during battle. If a single armed color is very strong, then he can understand it, but if the two-color hockey's attainments are very strong, it is puzzling. This intensity. Although he had just played against each other, Luo Ye was sure that if this guy was a marine, he would at least be a vice admiral. New world, it is really surprising. The more I do this, the more upset I am. Luo Ye held the magic knife, Chinbian, and turned around and said, people like you have so many quirks that you hate. I didn't expect that such a strong nosy person would come. Barber sneered. A man like you will come to hunt. This world really sucks. As he said, there was a murderous intent in his eyes. Boom. His body is slightly low, like a hunter about to explode, with his legs and feet stretched straight, like a spring, he bursts from the place, and rushes into Luo Ye. Go to hell, scum, he said grimly. Luo Ye's eyes closed slightly, and 2 fingers touched the 1,000 blades of the magic sword, a red light scattered under the heavy rain. I am a scum, can you call others scum? I look down on someone like you very much. Brush. Facing the rushing barber, Luo Ye did not hide, holding the magic knife Chinbian in both hands, took a step forward, one side of his body, avoided the fist attacked by barber, and at the same time the magic sword Chinbian split down, brought a red light on his body. The murdering sword of the unobserved god Mary. A red light flashed, Luo Ye and barber passed by. The latter fell on the ground, turned his head, his face stiff. You. Oh, did you notice it? The colors are really good. Luo Ye gently sheathed the 1,000 blades of the magic knife. Unfortunately, it was too late. Although it was a torrential rain, you still heard. Click. The blade, into the sheath. The soft sound of kamikaze. Laugh. From barber's chest to his shoulders, a huge wound was suddenly opened. The blood was like a spring, mixed with the falling rainstorm, and fell to the ground. The wound almost split barber's upper body in two, and under the huge gap, he separated from the position of his right chest, with his arm hanging down, only a little flesh and blood glued to it. With this knife, the corpse was almost divided. Can't live anymore. Boom. Just when Luo Ye was thinking this way, a loud noise suddenly rang from behind him. He moved his eyes, turned his head to look, and saw the fat man, stomping his feet vigorously to stand upright, allowing his wobbly body to stand firm. Hey, are you kidding me? Luo Ye was surprised. It makes no sense. He should die directly. Although he didn't use his full strength, he was sure of his strength against this kind of strength. 0. Look for flowers. Untouchables. Trivial untouchables. Barber stretched out his left arm, stepped on the blood on the ground and walked towards Sarger, making the boy's eyes widen, and the body that was sitting on the ground crawling back a few steps. You are just untouchables. Barber walked in front of Sarger. His fat and huge body was like a hill, staring at Sarger indifferently. His movable left arm was raised high, and he said indifferently, untouchables are not qualified to resist. No qualifications. Quote. As he said, he turned his head to look at the other citizens who stopped digging because of the fight, and looked at his other citizens with a bewildered look. He didn't know where his strength came from and shouted, you too. Untouchables will always be untouchables. Your children, your grandson, as long as you are still in this country, for generations to come, you will be our dolls. It is our pleasure. Don't want to resist, you can't resist. When this word came out, the expressions of these people did not arouse any fluctuations. Sag, you too. Barber turned to the horrified sage again, and said, why do I bully you so often? Because you look like you will resist, but you don't, you are also a pariah. Even if I'm dying now, you dare not resist. By the way, I heard that you still have a younger sister, so turn around and grab your younger sister. No, let the scum pirates take your sister away and let her be a slave. Quote. Barber laughed and said, although I may not be able to see your expression, but I know that it is fun, and it will be fun. Sage's pupils contracted, as if thinking of the scene that he absolutely didn't want to think of. Look, it's all like this, you won't resist, so you are a pariah, for generations to come, you are a pariah. Barber's eyes widened and his fists fell fiercely. At the moment when his fist was about to fall, Sarger's trembling body suddenly stopped. He grasped the hoe that had just fallen to the ground and shouted, I am not a pariah. You are not allowed, catch my sister. With a loud shout, it almost blew the falling storm wind away. I didn't know where to slap a shock, directly blasting away the surrounding gravel. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. There was a stunned look on Barber's face. He opened his mouth and continued to swing his left fist down, while Sage stared at the left fist without fear, and the hoe embedded in Barber's chest went deeper. Sager roared. I will never be bullied by you anymore. Conquerors. However, there was a trace of fluctuations in the depths of his eyes. I will resist. I will definitely. The fire is lit. Righteousness. Barber's hand dropped weakly from Sarger's shoulder, and he whispered softly, if you have the ability, just do it and show me. The fist fell halfway, turned into a palm, and lightly draped it on Sager's shoulder. Your Highness. This breath, Conquerors is right. Yes. Barber's knees softened, and he fell to his knees, the expression on his face gradually sluggish and stiff, and there was still that stunned and unbelievable fear. Luo Ye's pupils moved slightly and looked over in surprise. I saw that young man, with tears in his eyes, he jumped up and hit Barber's left chest with a hoe. Fluctuations of joy. His head hung down, and the corners of his mouth were slightly raised at an angle that Sarger couldn't see. Puff through. Chapter 160. Advertise here. After Sarger's hit, he drew out his hoe and slammed Barber's kneeling motionless head with tears. Snapped. One hand grabbed his wrist. Luo Ye appeared there and said solemnly, enough, you have other things to do, he is dead. Luo Ye saw that smile. Luo Ye probably understands why this man is dying, and Luo Ye's ability to act is prevented by Luo Ye. Sage reacted with an agitated spirit and looked at Barber who was kneeling in front of him in disbelief. He died. Sarger murmured. Is he really dead, that Barber? Died. Since he was caught in the mine, he has been beating him all the time because he said he had a devil-like man who resisted his eyes. Just die like this. The one who sees them as weeds and kills others at will, just to make himself happy. Died. Barber died in 193. Sugar suddenly roared. He is dead. The mountain above our head is gone. Crackling. This roar, accompanied by Conqueror's clothes on Luo Ye's body, made a burst of noise, and he let go of Sage's wrist. It's really Conquerors. Luo Ye murmured. Resist. Resist. Sag held the ho high and roared. Barber is dead, then Klein Og will die too, get rid of him. Let's lift the mountain above us. As if a switch was turned on, this young man named Sag uttered fierce words of resistance for the first time. Under the movement of Conqueror's hockey, these numb people finally fluctuated. But a strong man hesitated. No but, Sage shouted at him. Think about your family. Think about the future of the next generation. I don't want to be a pariah for generations, don't you think about it? Barber will die, and Klein Og will naturally die too, as long as he is dead, as long as he is dead. Quote. His pupils were almost flushed, we can get a new life. There will be hope in this country. Then do it. A strong man suddenly swung his hoe and smashed the rock below. His eyes were red and he said, my wife died in the mine. I don't want my child to be here too. Anyway, sooner or later. If you want to die, it's better to fight. Yes, fight it. A woman yelled. For my child. For the family. In order not to let people have the same situation as me. We resist. Like lighting a firecracker, the eyes of these numb people began to have a look, even if it was a look of hatred. In this open pit mine, thousands of people raised their hoes, shaking the mountains. Sage looked at Luo Ye with expectant eyes. Will you help us? No. Luo Ye shook his head. I just passed by. You can do this by yourself. What? There was disappointment in Sager's eyes, but soon he regained his spirit. Forget it, we will do it ourselves, and hope in others, it is better to rely on ourselves. Everyone, just start our new life now. Even if we go to death, we have to let Crane Og see that we are not good to bully. Sarger yelled at the surroundings, and then rushed out alone. Oh, the citizens shouted together, rushing in the direction of Sag like a wave. Seeing, hearing and perceiving, these numb emotions have completely fluctuated. There is excitement, hatred, hope, and the pleasure of being liberated. As if here was a broken cage. Luo Ye was in the midst of this crowd, looked at the first running sage, squinted his eyes, and said, Conquerors, which is rarely seen among millions of people, has its personality charm that has infected many people, and it brings it from the first awakening. Is this intensity? It's terrible. It didn't take long for the crowd to move away from him and converge into a torrent, rushing towards the town from the open pit mine. Call. As they left the open pit, a strong wind rang from behind Luo Ye. I am not a pirate. Luo Ye didn't even look at it, and said something. The wind, stop. Luo Ye turned his head and took a look. The huge figure kneeling down at this moment fell down, slanting to the ground. As if the kneeling before, he deliberately. The previously ugly face now carried a smile that was fulfilled. Hey, after a long time, Luo Ye sighed. Obviously, he is dead, is his will still so tenacious? The instincts of the body have to shoot at me because you think I am a pirate. It's no wonder that when I appeared, I would have murderous intent to me. If it was for other purposes, and I met a person who threatened my plan, I would also have murderous intent. Luo Ye can fully understand this. He understands, but this level, he can't do it. The willpower of this guy has reached a terrible point. There is a goal waiting for this person to complete, and it is regarded as mission 0. This kind of willpower, two-color hockey is so proficient, it's normal. Luo Ye shook his head and looked at Barber's body and said, sorry, you are a strong man. As he said, his body floated up and flew in the direction of the flood. In the town. Hey, it's so boring, let's find a family and have fun. Several soldiers were running rampant on the street, one of them yawned and suggested. They are soldiers of the kingdom of Klein. The number is very scarce. There are only 200 soldiers in this country. They are basically used to obey the king's orders. This country does not need to protect civilians, so naturally there is not so much force. Some of them were former gangsters in this country, and some were turned into soldiers by pirates. Because of the king, His Majesty Klein Og, his existence puts them in a state of lawlessness. The king personally promised that as long as he did not resist him and fulfilled his orders resolutely, he would be able to do whatever he wanted on weekdays. The fact is also true. The Majesty has basically no orders, except that 10 people will be caught into the mine every other time. On the contrary, they spend a lot of time doing nonsense. Like now. Forget it. These people are too poor. It is better to find a pirate who is alone, he is richer. Another soldier shook his head and refused. Not necessarily. A soldier next to him pointed to a room and said with a smile, is it true? First-class goods. In the window of that room, a blonde woman was holding a baby who seemed to be a newborn child to Coke's 5.7. Oh, this is fine, then go in. Several soldiers laughed in unison. The laughter made the blonde woman notice something, and when she looked out, she saw that they looked at herself unkindly, their eyes visibly flustered. Okay, it's her. A soldier walked over first, took out the gun in his hand, and was about to knock out the door lock with a shot. Rumble. Suddenly, the earth shook. What's wrong? Did the earthquake happen? A soldier looked to the ground in panic. No, the vibration comes from that direction. Another soldier pointed in a direction, and his mouth opened wide as soon as he finished speaking. Because from there, billowing smoke and dust came out. In the smoke and dust, a group of people in ragged clothes holding hose rushed here with angry expressions. Mine, mine. The soldier swallowed his saliva and yelled, "There is a riot in the mine." Chapter 161. Advertise here. The torrent of crowds is unstoppable. These soldiers stood there, as if they had not reacted to this reality, the torrent of the crowd had already rushed. Laugh. The leading sage jumped first, and a hoe struck a soldier's head. The sharpness of the hoe directly dented the soldier's helmet, dented his head with him, and fell down. At this time, other people also swarmed up. A strong man also dented the soldier's skull with a hoe, and other soldiers were riddled with holes by these people. Done. Did it. The brawny man who dented the soldier's skull said incredulously, "I did it." He had never thought of such a thing, he had never been born. Ah. By the way, I have been working in the mine for the past 5 years, and my strength has increased. The strong man reacted and said in surprise. Other people reacted similarly. Sugar picked up the pistol fired by the dead soldier, holding the pistol in one hand and the hoe in the other, and shouted at the town from the street. "Rebel. Citizens, let's not be so oppressed. Our own gain your own hope, gain the power to survive. Never again, don't be bullied." With his roar, thousands of people who came out of the mine screamed. This voice spread all over the town in an instant. Conquerors is also completely unfolded at this moment. Hey, isn't it? Luo Ye stared in the sky, as this conqueror's range so large. Isn't it the first time I awakened? Seeing, hearing, and perceiving, the mood swings in the entire town have completely risen. In a certain room being looted by pirates, a man full of bruises and fallen down heard this sound, and there was a wave of fluctuations in his numb eyes. He gritted his teeth viciously when he looked at a pirate who was ruining the box. Almost bleeding from the bite. Then, he stood up suddenly, and when the pirate did not react, he grabbed the knife in his hand and stabbed it into the pirate's body. This man is much stronger than the pirate. Similarly, in other rooms. An old man looked at the two merchants who were pulling his daughter and was about to put a rope on his daughter to sell, and reached for the pistol hanging on the wall. Bang bang. There were 2 gunshots in the room. Once, this old man was a very famous hunter. There are similar things everywhere in the town. Under the roar of so many people, those people come out from home one after another, with strong fluctuations in their eyes. I have had enough. The old man with the gun walked out with his tearful daughter. The old man gritted his teeth and said, "I want to resist. I have had enough." The same voice came from another brawny man holding a blood-stained blade. "I want to live a new life." Regardless of men, women or children, armed or not, under this heavy rain, they took to the streets one after another, expanding the torrent of the crowd. Once a kind of fire is ignited, at a certain moment, it will form a wildfire. Just be ignited. And the person who ignited was the boy who owned conquerors. Most people cannot achieve this kind of appeal. Seeing this scene, Luo Ye in the sky has a lot of Mingwu in his eyes. So, do you want this degree? No wonder this boy has more injuries than anyone else. With more and more people, the joy on Sage's face became stronger and stronger. Done. Did it easily. He was born with no thought of resisting, but he did not expect that resisting is so easy, so simple. They can really have hope. Vengeance to the king. With the roar of Sager, a group of people rushed to the innermost palace of the town. The surging crowd and the loud noise shocked the pirate group gathered nearby. There is more than one tavern in the town. In addition to Dick's, other taverns are also occupied by pirates, but the environment is naturally not as good as Dick's. Hearing the noise, they came out one after another, and then. Hey, what are you doing? No, don't. In the face of the crowd, all resistance is vain. People are killed, weapons are robbed, and scattered pirates are completely unable to resist in front of the excited crowd. Ooh, after killing a pirate, a girl suddenly knelt and burst into tears. My husband, my father. If it could be earlier, they would not die sooner. At her cry, the crowd fell silent, rarely. Immediately afterwards, the color of anger continued to rise. Yes, pirates are nothing great. They will die too. Will be killed by his own hands. They can do it. It's not too late. In the distance, Dick, who was watching this scene from the tavern window, was shaking all over. Done. That man with a hat did it. After he disappeared, the people here rioted. They are going to the palace. The palace. Dick gritted his teeth, looked at the bar, walked over to the shocked eyes of Momosuke and Robin, and slammed his punch towards the bar. Boom. The wooden bar was smashed, and Dick ignored the blood on the back of his hand and drew from the smashed gap. With an even greater bang, the entire wooden bar was lifted, and a huge gun with 1/3 of its blade was held in his hand. I should do it too. Dick's gaze gradually became firm. Momosuke. It looks like, what happened in this country? Robin. But 197, damn it. What did you guys do? In front of the crowd, in a tavern, a captain-like man raised his pistol, poked his head out from the door of the tavern, and aimed a shot at the front sage. Dare to resist us, go to death. Quote. Boom. The bullet came out. Call out. But in the current situation, letting them kill the pirates by themselves should be the wisest choice. I'm with you. After all, New World has all kinds of strange shapes. But after thinking, a big hole was punched in the entire tavern, and a large gun was nailed to the ground and penetrated deeply, while the captain was strung by the blade of the gun. If he died, he could not die again. So, from behind, Dick's voice sounded. If he guessed correctly. Oh, recovered your will. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Boom. Above, Luo Ye raised his eyebrows, a little surprised. He limped over and said resolutely, I have to do with Klein Og, too. It doesn't seem to be suitable. It's just that the truth is still to be determined. Luo Ye looked towards the direction of the palace where the crowd was flooding, with a trace of complexity in his eyes. Originally, he wanted to get rid of the pirates. However, at this moment, a meteor flashed from the horizon, something quickly struck over, smashed the projectile, and flew towards the captain at the same time. Chapter 162. Advertise here. The crowd gradually gathered to the door of the huge palace. This palace is not as gorgeous as Luo Ye thought. On the contrary, it is very shabby, and many places have not been repaired for a long time. Your Majesty Og, no, is Og's bastard's palace so shabby? It's unbelievable. One person in the crowd murmured to himself. They haven't been close to the palace since 5 years ago. Except for Crane Og's order not to be approached, no one dared to approach this terrible place. That bastard just made fun of us, didn't he even repair his own home? Someone next to him angered. Leave it alone, we are here to overthrow him. Yes, overthrow him. Sag, come on. Yes, Sag, you led us, and only you are qualified. A group of people all looked at Sager. The young man at the head of the crowd took a deep breath, looked at the closed gate of the palace, and shouted, break open for me, rush in, and overthrow Klein Og. As soon as the voice fell, the dick next to him suddenly threw the big gun out. Boom. The door was completely blasted open by this thunderous blow, stirring up a cloud of smoke and dust. The scene inside the palace was revealed. It's so narrow that people who are narrow enough outside can see it at a glance. Almost a little bit inside the gate, a thick wall was blocked there, separating the huge palace as a whole. At the front of the wall, there was a dilapidated throne. A handsome blonde man leaned there, his arm propped on his chin. A pair of eyes looked down at the outsiders indifferently, and the spear that broke through the door fell straight on his feet. Seeing this person, everyone was breathing stagnant. Crane Og, the king of the Klein country, is also their beloved prince. Aug. Dick's expression was very complicated, and his thoughts could not help flying in his mind. Hey, boy, what are you doing at sea? This is a spiral sea area. Normal ships entering here will only be swallowed by Uzumaki. Anyway, thank you for saving me. Unfortunately, I broke my leg. I want to save my country. The blonde boy looked resolute. For this, I want to go to sea to find strength. Huh, save the country. You mean the kingdom of Klein. Is that country still saved? There must be a rescue. There must be a way. The blonde boy said. No matter what the price is paid, I will save it. Ha ha ha, a very ambitious young man. If you save me like this, I will teach you how to spear. Don't look at him like this, he is very good at spears. Oh, you are a prince. It's amazing, is the prince who saved me. Hey, your prince, my legs are gone, and I can't be a pirate. How about I open a tavern here? If you are a prince, you will definitely take care of my business in the future. Quote. Ha ha ha, Oj, are you learning fast? Have a good talent. Have you ever experienced exercise before? After a while, you will be able to go to the teacher, and then you will be able to guard your country. Quote. Aug, you killed another wave of pirates today, come on, you can definitely do it, I also expect you to carry forward my spear skills. What, Aug, what's wrong with you, you won't come anymore. What happened, Aug? Dick's last memory was that blonde boy composed of perseverance and cheerfulness, who disappeared after becoming indifferent. Oh, so many people, what to do in my palace, I seem to have ordered that untouchables are not allowed to approach my palace. Klein Og watched the torrent of people gathered at the door, with a disdainful smile on his lips, or, do you want to rebel? Shut up, Crane Og. Sarger pointed his flintlock directly at him and shouted, your brutal rule is over. Oh, Crane Og glanced at Sarger, his eyes faintly fluctuating, why, just rely on you untouchables. I want to resist my rule. There are so many people, how powerful. Shut up, Aug. You evil people, 5 years ago we shouldn't just sit idly by and let you kill your majesty Crane Xavius. A citizen shouted. Xavius. Oj tapped his head with his fingers and closed his eyes, as if he was remembering this person. In the depths of the palace, the blonde man stabbed a kind-faced old king in the chest, slammed his head on the shoulder, tears wet the shirt. Father, forgive me, go and do what you want. The old king's mouth was bleeding, with a smile in his mouth, and tremblingly stretched out his hand to touch the blonde man's head, it's just that it hurts you. Oh, that indecisive old idiot. Oj opened his eyes and said indifferently, he gave me the throne sooner, and I won't kill him. And Princess Winnie, that is a kind person, if she came to be the king, we would not be like this. Another citizen shouted. Oj, you are a gentle child. A woman with wavy blonde hair grabbed the tearful blonde man's hand, and stabbed the knife in her hand into her heart. If you want to do it, make up your mind and do it to the end. She smiled. Oh, the woman who only knows how to smirk. Alan didn't care and said, it affects my mood too much, killing it will make me happy. Backquote. There is also Prince Scott. He is more suitable to sit on this throne than you. A national pointed at him and shouted hysterically. Brother, everything is up to you. The blonde man raised his pistol and pointed it at his head. At the same time, he smiled at the young man who was almost crying and swollen in front of him. This matter will be very hard. Boom. He is not dead, how can I inherit the throne? Oja's eyes were colder. I am the only heir of this country, a pariah, recognize this fact. Not anymore, Sager said angrily. We came out of the mine and have made up our minds to overthrow you. Aug, no one supports you now, your loyal dog Barber is dead. Your Highness, I found it. We found it. A man who was very heroic back then rushed in excitedly, found it. This country is saved. It is saved. What did you find? The indifferent blonde man had a wave of waves on his face. A man with conqueror's qualifications. The heroic man almost burst into tears of joy. Just today, a kid released conquerors and stunned the pirate. It must be conquerors, that kind of breath, I can be sure. That kid is called Sage, it must be our savior. Then, he said sadly, it's just that the pirate attacked his parents, and his parents have already. Barber, start the mine plan. But, Your Highness, he is only 12 years old. Then train for a few years and protect him. Remember, people in the mine can die, but their physique must be cultivated. Especially the person named Sage, he is the fire of this country. When we arouse the national consciousness of resistance, and then be ignited by this fire, this country will be reborn. Quote. The blonde man knelt towards the heroic man, his head smashed. Barber, I want you to be a sinner. For this country, please. Quote. I knew it, useless waste. Al coldly snorted disdainfully. That kind of obese body shape, can't do anything, or die. Chapter 163. Advertise here. Even my most loyal minister. Sager gritted his teeth and said, you are really hopeless, Aug. You are dead here today. See, our anger, oppressed for so many years and pressing, we will also resist. Resistance. Just rely on you untouchables who can't even hold a knife. Oj looked down and saw a citizen holding a weapon snatched from a pirate. He disdainfully said. Obviously he has such a strong physique, but he can't even hold a knife. Why does this exist? Step on. As soon as his voice fell, footsteps suddenly came from behind the crowd. Under the heavy rain, a large number of pirates gathered and moved here. Quickly, these people are rioting, this is our chance. It just so happened that I took advantage of the riot and robbed the palace. I know, there are a lot of treasures in the palace. There were pirates and illegally armed businessmen who gathered here, all mixed together, each with greed and grinning. Sager, someone is coming from behind. A national face paled. Although everyone had plucked up the courage to resist, he had never seen this kind of battle. Too many people, even if there are more people here, but they have never experienced this kind of battle, and they are very flustered for a while. Yes, that's right, Oj suddenly said, did you hear what they said? This place has treasure. He stood up, walked to the big nailed gun and stopped. He scanned Dick's body in front of him and said, seeing the wall behind me, this is the wealth I have gained in the past 5 years. Put it behind the wall. There are countless treasures there, the treasures accumulated with your blood and tears, it's a pity, I wanted to expand by another 200. Forget it, I suppressed you, then you can continue to expand to install more treasures. Quote. As he said, he grabbed the big gun and squeezed it with his 5 fingers, and the big gun was shot by him. Aug. No, these are all your people. Dick yelled in horror when he saw this scene. Oj didn't hear it at all, he stepped forward, his pupils contracted, and his arm was thrown out. Call out. The big gun was thrown out, and the silver-white long spear turned into a white glow, exploded above everyone's heads, and the shock wave that swelled away drove countless people back, some of them were directly impacted and sat down. Boom. The big gun flew from a high altitude and directly rushed into the group of pirates who came, punching a large gap in the dense crowd, and blasting the ground completely. A group of pirates flew up under the shock wave. In the center, the big gun was nailed to the ground, with a group of people strung on it. The power of a shot made everyone stand still. The pirates stayed in place one after another, watching this scene in horror. Why, I have so few soldiers and so many chaotic pirate scum, yet I can still rule this kingdom. Crane Og asked self-consciously, his eyes were on the cold sweating Sager, and he said coldly, of course it's because I'm very strong. Ah, I slipped my hand, but it doesn't matter. Boom. Oj regained his senses with a punch and smashed his throne. He slid his hand and lifted the floor at the bottom of the throne directly. In his hand, there was an extra black spear blade that was exactly the same as the silver-white spear. Bang! Oj's figure flashed, and he took a big gun and slammed directly. Sage's body shook, and suddenly flew out, the crowd rushed directly into a channel. Ogle appeared behind the torrent of crowds and stopped at the center of the people and the pirates. Spread. He grinned. Whether it is a pariah or a pirate, let you experience the horror 5 years ago. This speed, and this impact. Dick looked at the nation swaying from the ground, swallowed dryly, and tremblingly said, did he neglect exercise during his 5-year career as a king? Og, you. Bang. Oj stood in the center, the spear blade was horizontal, and he swung it straight out. A strong wind blasted from the spear blade. It swept down a piece of the people on his left first, and then when he swung it to the right, it obviously increased. The force, the wind is like a knife, blowing in the direction of the pirate. Laugh. The strong wind cut off the pirates at the front end, and the subsequent shock wave also made the pirates fly far away. There was already a gap in the crowd, at this time the outermost layer was cut under this move. With one stroke, Oj set up his gun and laughed. Under the force of mine, who can resist successfully? By this, the faces of the people who were shaking turned pale one by one. They are lucky. They were hit by the shock wave just now, only slightly injured, but the pirates. If they continue to resist, perhaps their fate will be the same as those of the pirates. Oj's strength made them desperate. Yes, that's the expression. Oj laughed. With this kind of fear, numbness, and anxiety, but only accepts the realistic expression, go home obediently, for the sake of you for giving me fun, this time I will forget the past, and then accept my oppression, accept the encroachment and plunder brought about by this chaos, the kingdom of Klein will be an eternal, hunting ground, and a paradise for the chaotic. Quote. No, I don't want to be bullied. A sturdy citizen held the blade tightly, tears in his eyes, don't be bullied again. This time I resisted, even if it is dead, I will show you our ambition. Yes, I will never return to that kind of environment again. Pirates can be killed, so are you. Kill him, overthrow this kingdom, our life is up to us. The citizens rallied and courageously, instead of being frightened by Oj's words, they became more determined one by one. That's it. In the passage of the crowd that was rushed by Og, Sage walked out with a resolute expression, staring at Og completely fearlessly. We, will not be bullied by anyone anymore, it is the Emperor of the Sea. We can only get our corpses. Yes. A smile floated at the corner of Og's mouth, but the smile quickly turned into a smirk. He held a virtual hand, and his figure was slightly low. The big gun he held was swung to the side, and the blade of the gun shone cold under the rain. Hey, pirates, give me more fun. He turned around and said to the pirates who dared not move, to subdue them, you are trying to initiate a riot, I don't need to pursue it. Good, good. A pirate heard the words, tremblingly squeezed his weapon, and grinned. If we just overwhelm this group of people who won't resist, we can certainly do it. Your Majesty, the Kingdom of Klein, what you said back then. Yes, Your Majesty, we just wanted to help you, there is no other meaning. Little ones, the king who treats us preferentially has issued an order. For the sake of letting us hunt in the past, help him to subdue these untouchables. Yes, just do it. The pirates were drinking loudly. Oj waved his arm back, and the blade of the gun pointed straight to the back. Bang! A shock wave shot out from the tip of the gun, piercing a large hole in the head of a pirate, and its power was undiminished, piercing the heads of some of the pirates behind. It's too noisy, he said coldly. Captain. The pirates who were not affected nearby screamed in horror. How is it possible? The captain is a pirate with a reward of 40 million. One blow, a pirate tremblingly said. Whoosh. Suddenly, Oj's body flashed and quickly appeared next to the big silver gun nailed to the ground. Go away, don't get in my way. Ogle talked about the black spear, and the blades of the spear rotated, and the surrounding pirates were directly knocked into the air. All their chests exposed a large gap under the blade of the spear, and the shock wave emitted from them swept away in a circle of people. Captain. First mate. Under this blow, the pirates were shocked. A smirk appeared at the corner of Oj's mouth, and the black gun shot forward, flying the big silver white gun. Under the big gun flying, the corpses of the pirates strung before were thrown out one after another. Charge for me, Og shouted. Hands. Under Og's power and orders, the pirates rushed towards the crowd on the opposite side with a roar. We won't admit defeat. Sage also yelled loudly, clenched the weapon in his hand, and led the torrent of crowds, rushing directly at the pirate. And the big silver white gun fluttered in the air for a while, and flew directly to Luo Ye who was watching the show in the sky. Okay. Luo Ye was stunned, and when he turned to the left, he saw the big gun rotating and falling from his side, and landed firmly in the middle of the crowd colliding with each other. Boom. Sarger shot a pirate in the head, then threw away the flintlock and hoe. His body, who didn't look sturdy, grabbed the big silver gun and swung it at the pirate. At this time, the Ouch spear behind the pirate pointed directly at Luo Ye, and you. Pirate, you don't seem to hear my words. I hate people who don't follow orders, so. Boom. He stepped on the air, bounced and flew directly, the big black spear, with an armed color swept out of its spear blade, pounced straight at Luo Ye. You die to me. In his eyes, there was a strong killing intent. Chapter 164. Advertise here. When, with armament hockey's gun blade, it was held by a black sword full of armed colors. Luo Ye held the magic knife with 1,000 blades, resisting Oj's attack, and said suspiciously, Moonwalk. Where did you learn it? He used the moonwalk in the 6 formulas. Oj didn't answer him. After the blow was blocked, his body jumped back, retracted the big spear, and rounded it toward Luo Ye. When Luo Ye moved the magic knife Chindian up to a stand, blocking Oja's chopping attack, and a wave of air was emitted at the intersection of the weapons. Tisk, the strength is not small, you are stronger than the one named Barber in the mine. Luo Ye was amazed. Barber. Oj squinted, you killed him. You, a man like you, do you come to this country for fun? With that, he retracted the big gun again, and then changed the direction to attack Luo Ye. Don't count. Luo Ye held the spear blade with a knife, and opened the big spear lightly, I'm just passing by. Really, I don't believe it because the pirates passed by or something. Oj jumped repeatedly in the air, leaving Luo Ye far away. While bouncing in the air, his body also leaned open, holding the spear in both hands, and assumed a posture to charge. Laugh. A white breath sprayed out from his nose. Kill Barber, use your life to pay it back. Bang. When he bounced in the next instant, Og's feet stepped on a wave of air in the air, bursting like thunder, and the flashing gun shattered the falling rainstorm. It turned into a black line in an instant, and quickly struck towards it. Luo Ye. I say, Luo Ye's body was only slightly to the side, and he escaped Oja's spear thrust. I'm not a pirate, and if you fight again, I will fight back. Did you escape? It's amazing. Oj appeared behind Luo Ye, bounced away in the next moment, turned to face Luo Ye, his eyes full of solemnity. After 2 bounces, he burst into Luo Ye again. After Luo Ye dodged twice in a row, seeing the blonde man still reluctant, frowned, he escaped Oja's gunshot, and the magic sword thousand blade fell from the side, and when the blade was about to hit him, he twisted his wrist and slapped Oja's body with the blade of the knife. Boom. Ogle fell straight down like a cannonball, stirring up a cloud of smoke. Oj knelt on one knee, holding a spear, looking at Luo Ye above in horror. After all, I'll fight back again. Luo Ye pulled a knife and looked down below. This guy. The killing intent in Oja's eyes was even stronger. Never stay. He stood up, clenched the black gun in his hand, and put a throwing posture at Luo Ye above. Dick, who slashed a pirate with a knife, looked far away subconsciously, his pupils shrank, that's. Under the torrential rain, the big gun in Oja's hand, especially the position of the gun blade, had a richer armed color, and a group of black thunder flashed past the gun blade. At this scene, Luo Ye was a little surprised, hey, that kind of hockey. Top hockey. This man can actually achieve this level. Throughout, Oj drank in a low voice, and his arm waved like an afterimage. The big gun turned into a black thunder in the heavy rain, but in the blink of an eye, the black gun rushed into Luo Ye's body. The spear. At this time, Oj's burst of shouting sounded. The big gun like a black thunder rushed into Luo Ye's face with extreme speed. Be careful. At this time, among the crowd, Dick's yelling sounded. The speed is too fast. Only, Luo Ye's eyes didn't fluctuate, his body was slightly on one side, letting the black thunder fly out against his cheek. You are really. Luo Ye didn't finish speaking, and suddenly he was taken aback, and the people on the ground had disappeared. And behind his head, a strong wind blew up. Aug didn't know when he came behind him, grabbed the handle of the spear that flew out quickly, and the big spear rounded and slashed in a circular arc. This blow was full of killing intent. The blade of the gun slashed the back of Luo Ye's head and pierced directly into the past. Luo Ye's body flashed a ripple under the rainstorm. Afterimage. Boom. Oj received a heavy blow on his back, and the whole person descended and landed on the ground again, cracking the ground apart. Luo Ye appeared behind him, retracted his foot, and said coldly, just think so. Looking for death. The last 3 characters appeared from behind Oj. Before Oj even had time to get up, Luo Ye's figure appeared behind him. Luo Ye was holding a magic knife with 1,000 blades, and he slashed it. Laugh. Ogle rolled on the ground a few times, regardless of the mud on the ground dirtying his clothes and face, half kneeling up, clutching his bleeding shoulders. Did you avoid it? Luo Ye looked over with cold eyes, the next blow, you can't hide. You guy. Ao roared. Why do people like you come to this country? His words are unusually big, but to others, they are just a furious roar, which, in line with his embarrassed appearance, looks extremely incompetent in the eyes of others. 0. Look for flowers. Oj bastard deflated. Sager said excitedly. Everyone, that person is obviously stronger, we work harder to kill these pirates, and we will win. This scene made others more excited, and the offensive was obviously strengthened a lot. Oj was trembling all over with anger. He grabbed the black gun on the ground and stood up again, with flames in his eyes, gritted his teeth and said, even if it's dead, I want to. Huh. He was taken aback suddenly, his anger suddenly disappeared at this moment, and he looked at Luo Ye in a daze. Okay. Luo Ye was taken aback by his inexplicable actions, what's wrong with you? This expression is like shit. So it's you. Luo Ye set up a knife to block Oj's attack, which had already rushed in, and said suspiciously, recognizing me, it means that you also care about the world. I don't quite understand, what do you want to do? It depends on what you have now. The strength is enough to protect your country. When a corner of his hat was poked under the black thunder-like attack just now, and as he raised his head, his entire face was exposed. Oj slightly loosened the spear in his hand, sighed in relief, and a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, but it quickly went cold. Luo Ye withdrew back and flashed through this round and straight attack, and he saw Oj put his posture away, letting out his breath softly. Was seen. Oj fired a big gun and attacked Luo Ye one after another. What protects the country? No, what this king wants is rule, all he wants is fun. What nonsense are you talking about? I don't understand at all. Call. As well as a warrior, I want to verify my fighting spirit. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Monkey D. Luo Ye, what do you want to do when you come to my country? Do you want my throne? Luo Ye was taken aback for a moment, subconsciously looking up, suddenly realized. The Oj, who had his back facing the nation and facing him, no longer had fury and worry on his face, but instead had more fighting spirit. He swung his gun straight, and his vigor caused the rainstorm to open for a while, and slammed Luo Ye from the side. Monkey D. Knight, I heard that you can not only leave naval headquarters alone, but also defeated Letterfield and Golden Lion. Let this king test and see how strong you are. Death will. Righteous. As he said, his face was exposed, and he roared. You never want to succeed. Even if you die, I have to keep my throne. I am the king of this country. The others are just untouchables. Chapter 165. Advertise here. The torrential rain fell like beads on the jade plate, ticking and crackling. In the rain curtain, Oj, holding a big gun in a posture, moved first, flashed first, and instantly deceived Luo Ye. The blade of the gun was like a dragon, and the gun was stirred, shaking off the falling rainstorm, and went straight to Luo Ye. Comes here. Very pure. This fighting spirit is no longer the anxious and eagerness Luo Ye feels, at this time it is full of a sense of completion. Also stronger than before. Facing the sudden shot, Luo Ye narrowed his eyes, neither dodge nor avoid. The magic knife thousand blades in his hand glowed with black light, and the blade smashed on the blade of the attacking gun. When the crisp sound rang through the rain curtain, a smile appeared at the corner of Oj's mouth. Without entanglement, the blade of the gun was retracted as soon as it touched, and then quickly approached Luo Ye from other directions. When dang dang. During the rain curtain, two black pythons kept flashing in it. The big gun is very long, and compared to the short soldiers of the magic knife and thousand blades, it is obviously at a disadvantage in such a close range. However, under the waving of this man, this disadvantage was obviously ignored. Laugh. A wound was cut on his shoulder by the magic knife Chinbian, but Oj didn't take it seriously. On the contrary, he laughed even more, not looking at the light of the attacking knife at all, and stabbed in the past with a single shot. Injury for injury. Boom. Luo Ye opened the spear blade that Oj stabbed with a knife, turned around, kicked Oj on the chest, kicking him back a few steps. Luo Ye held the knife in one hand and stood still. The rain fell straight down the blade and flowed to the ground. He looked at Oj and said, Hey, you guy, are you using me? Oj completely ignored Luo Ye's words. He stepped back and stood still, holding the big gun tightly, and said with a smile, It really is Monkey D. Luo Ye. The former admiral candidate who killed celestial dragons is very strong. How does he know this? There were other things in mind, but Luo Ye cursed on the surface. If you want to die, find someone else. I'm not your tool person. He is not in the mood to act with this king. Ao said grimly. What nonsense are you talking about? This king is going to kill you. You came here for no reason, wanting to destroy the foundation of this king's rule. I tell you, unless I die, the people here will always be untouchables. It's not bad to kill you and become celestial dragons. Quote. As he said, he shot his spear and continued to rush over. The weapon was handed over again. People don't listen. Luo Ye slashed at the big gun and said coldly, If you want me to be a tool man, then I will fulfill you. Come if you can do it. Oj said. This king's strength can't be done just by talking about it. He is really good. After letting go of something, the whole action was a big deal. Luo Ye knew this kind of spear skill before. From Luo Ye's point of view, this guy's strength, if strictly compared, would not lose to the Golden Lion who did not break out of conquerors. Although it is not as tricky as the Golden Lion that can fly everywhere. This is also something Luo Ye can't figure out at all. A crane og, a barber, if placed on marine, it is an elite vice admiral and an admiral alternate. It should be perfectly possible to guard a country. Why does he think this guy is guarding? The battle between the strong and the strong can sense something. His moves, his style, and the feeling brought by the handover of weapons made Luo Ye feel that this guy is exactly the kind of person who should be upright and blazing like the sun. Such a person, if he were a king, would not be able to squeeze the nation. Luo Ye dodged his side, avoiding Oj's attack, moved closer, and rushed directly in front of Oj. Ao was startled, and subconsciously withdrew the spear, but he didn't twitch for the first time. Luo Ye's other hand grabbed the handle of his gun. The black light flashed out. Luo Ye waved the knife with the other hand, and slashed Oj's chest with a merciless knife. In an instant, Oj released his spear and stepped away. When he was low, he flashed to the side. At the same time, his fists gathered hockey and punched Luo Ye in the chest. When the fist was blocked by the black knife, and Oj's figure rose and fell again, pressing his other hand on the ground, and kicking his feet on Luo Ye. At the same time, the fist that was beating the blade loosened, and suddenly grabbed the handle of the gun, twisted it hard, twisted the body of the gun, and shook Luo Ye's hand away, letting him draw the big gun back. Boom. It's just that the moment he withdrew the big gun, an afterimage appeared on his face. Luo Ye flew a kick, hit his face, and kicked him out with a heavy kick. Laugh. The figure, sliding backwards suddenly on the wet ground washed by heavy rain, he crouched, with one foot stretched out, one hand on the ground, and the other hand holding a spear, set in place. Luo Ye lifted his foot. At this time, a scratch was also revealed on the trouser legs. A white scratch appeared on the trousers, and the trousers also showed the fading armed color. He sighed and looked over impatiently. Oj raised his head, a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. If you are not serious, you will be killed by this king. Aug threatened. I was killed by the terrible king who has always oppressed the people and treated them as playthings and prey. At that time, this country will still be under my reign of terror. Laozi doesn't understand. Luo Ye grasped the magic knife Qinbian's wrist and turned, and the blade shook away the rain falling on it. If you really want to die, wouldn't it be all right to be killed by me just now? Resist something. Or, I can't bear you citizens. I'm afraid they will be killed by the pirates. In that case, wouldn't it be enough to set an example by yourself? I just want fun. Oj stood up and said lightly. 5.7. Whether it is the pleasure of resistance or the pleasure of being slaughtered, it is fun in the eyes of this king, and I don't care if anyone dies. Really? Oh, no, that kid who knows conquerors is about to die. Luo Ye pointed behind Oj. What? Aug turned his head subconsciously, only to find that Sarger was stabbing a pirate with a single shot at this time, roaring there. It seemed that he sensed Aug's gaze. He looked over and shouted at him. Aug, I will overthrow you. Oj frowned, turned his head and looked around, only to find that Marine wearing a hat, with a teasing expression on his face at this time. If you don't care, then, worry about what to do. Luo Ye asked. You don't know anything. Oj closed his eyes, then opened them again. You don't understand anything. Chapter 166. Whoosh. He burst into shape and rushed towards Luo Ye, but did not attack him. Instead, he bypassed him and came directly to the back of him, facing the citizens. Oj put the big gun in a throwing posture, and the blade of the gun to be thrown out again sparked a black thunder. Ha ha ha. You angered this king, then look at this trick, bastard. If you dodge, this shot will hit those untouchables. Oj's voice was particularly loud at the moment, attracting the attention of the citizens who were still attacking the pirates. Oj, don't. Seeing this scene, Dick's eyes almost cracked and roared. That's the move he taught. He knows very well how powerful this trick is. These people will be thoroughly penetrated. Oj's eyes were stunned, and his arm waved out. The big black thunder-like spear was about to be thrown out. He stared at Luo Ye. The determination in his eyes was shocking, and deep in those eyes, besides determination, there was also a hint of pleading. Just kill me, otherwise, I will really do it. Laugh. Just when Oj was about to take the big gun out of 09, a figure suddenly appeared, and then the black man suddenly appeared. A geyser of blood burst out of Aug's chest, mixed with the rainstorm. Luo Ye held the knife with one hand and kept the cleavage posture. The rain washed on the blade, taking away the blood from the blade. Is that enough? Luo Ye said lightly. What? Oj looked down at the big hole in his chest, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. So why? Luo Ye asked. Because. Oj lowered his head and murmured, I want fun. As he said, his eyes opened, and suddenly he stepped forward, and his arm was thrown out. Through to the spear. The black thunder suddenly rose, like a meteor, shooting straight past. This scene caused Luo Ye's pupils to shrink, and he looked over subconsciously. You guy. Really? Did he guess wrong? Feeling wrong. Boom. The black thunder shot straight ahead, flew over the heads of these citizens, and hit the wall inside the palace. The wall was blasted open, and under the heavy rain, it revealed a golden light. Inside, there are a lot of treasures. All the gold ornaments are piled up and mixed with Bailey, revealing the most fascinating light color in the world. Whoosh. Oj's figure disappeared from Luo Ye and appeared in front of the palace along the black thunder. He drew out the big black gun nailed to the ground, facing the people, clutching his chest and shouting, the next blow will not be executed again. No matter which world it is, there is a law. Kings love prestige, priests love piousness, but everyone loves money. From the outside, the treasures piled up in the walls almost filled up the palace. No wonder Oj wanted to build walls to protect these treasures. That seems very touching. Get the treasure first. The pirates who had been beaten back by the nationals saw treasure and became excited. At the appeal of a pirate, the remaining pirates seemed to be beaten with blood, and they suppressed these nationals in the first place. The greedy fighting spirit was aroused. At the same time, Oj raised the big gun again and made a throwing motion, this time facing the citizens. They have seen the power of that move, and if it really hits, then they will definitely not be able to stop it. Even if tens of thousands of people gather, but if that shot is shot, plus those pirates, the consequences could be disastrous. Dick's eyes widened and his whole body was shaking. Obviously, seeing the dawn of salvation. No way. At this desperate moment of flanking, a loud roar spread from the crowd, and the surrounding air remained still at this moment and changed its color. Puff. Following the roar, a pirate first turned his eyes white and fell down. It was like a chain reaction. A large number of pirates fell along with him, all of them fainted. Laugh. At this moment, a brilliance like a white thunder exploded, passing directly to the palace, and hitting Oj. A big silver white gun directly pierced Oj through his chest. Among the crowd, Sager kept his throwing motion, tears in his eyes. Bah, conquerors. Dick beside him looked at Sarger in horror. This kid actually has conquerors. No wonder. No wonder even if you are new to him, you still obey his orders unconsciously and fall for him. Not only that move. It was obviously his penetrating spear, he had only released it once, plus the release by Oj, only a few times. Is this being taken by the master? This master level? In addition to Dick, Luo Ye was also surprised. Somewhat proficient. Luo Ye touched his chin and said with interest. For the time being, the move that was suddenly performed was already terrifying based on the degree of Conqueror's control alone. Those who fainted had no nationals at all, they were all pirates. Conquerors can control the target, but at that level, it is impossible to use it without proficiency. So this kid, what the hell is master? How big is this? 17. Never let you make trouble again. Sager shouted. This country belongs to us. Cough. Oj clutched his chest, took a half step back, and spit out a large mouthful of blood. He pulled out the big silver white gun that penetrated his chest with great effort and threw it down. The big gun rolled down on the palace stairs until it rolled into the crowd below. How is it possible? How is it possible? Just rely on you, kid. Oj's face was savage, and the corners of his mouth were bleeding. Do you want to resist this king? Yes, just rely on me. Spirit. There are also pirates. Those pirates are the most traumatized to this country and the most traumatic to these people. Oj, how can you look like yourself now? Everything is this bastard who killed his own family for the throne and at the same time treated the whole kingdom as prey for his own pleasure. These words made many people feel resentful. Oj's body shook for a while, he leaned against the door, and gasped. Have you forgotten this king's help? How dare you teach the trick to that kid? Among them, the families of some of them were taken and sold by human traffickers. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Gun. Dick. You bastard. Dick stood up at this time and said. You are too damn it, look at what you have done in the past 5 years. How many people think your family is ruined because you have become an orphan? There are still many people. If it doesn't come, it's all sold. Oj spit out another mouthful of blood and grinned. You are a pirate. It is an honor to be taken in by this king. Teaching this king martial arts is what you should do. Stop talking nonsense. You are just this king. It's just a plaything. Dick roared. In the beginning, I shouldn't have taught you spear skills. Sarger walked to the front, leaned over and picked up the silver white gun, with a firm expression. I will overthrow you. Klein Og. 200. Everything is Oj. Some people were killed by the soldiers raised by Oj. With a low cry, Sager rushed up the stairs of the palace first, and behind him, a group of people roared and surged. Kill the culprit of all this, everything will end. Kill him. Chapter 167. Advertise here. His Royal Highness, you are very grateful for saving us again. Oj waved his spear, not even looking at the pirate who had fallen on the ground, turned around and smiled at the man holding his daughter with a smile comparable to the sun. It's okay, as long as I am here, I will definitely protect you. His Royal Highness. The man was stunned by Oj's smile. As long as Oj is here, we will be fine. Yes, Ogle is the strongest, pirate or something, it is not Ogle's opponent. His Royal Highness Oj. The people nearby were cheering. Oj looked at their smiles from the bottom of his heart, and he was a little startled for a while. Yes, there will be no accidents in this country with me. Pirates, unscrupulous merchants, and criminals, as long as I am here, this country known as the hunting ground, will never be approached. Crane Og has always thought so. He is very strong, he is very strong. He learned hockey and fighting styles from the patron saint of the kingdom, and surpassed him very early. He also rescued an old pirate and learned the top-notch fighting style with nothing to wear. Already very strong, everyone thinks so, and he thinks so. He is a strong man who came out of the kingdom of Klein for 100 years, and he will save this country that has been used as a back garden by a pirate for 100 years. Again and again, every day, he is repeating the battle to solve those who break in and want to hunt. Again and again, again and again, my daughter. When Oj arrived, all he saw was that the man pounced on his daughter's body and wept. His Royal Highness. The man saw Oj and cried bitterly. My daughter was killed by a pirate who broke in suddenly, by that pirate. A pirate. Og turned his eyes and saw a sturdy, heroic man carrying a dead pirate over, and said in a deep voice, His Royal Highness. What's going on, Barber? Og asked. To the effect, when we went to defend against the pirates, this person sneaked in. Barber lowered his head and said guilty. The pirate is very thin, with only a small dagger on his waist. And the man who leaned over and wept was very strong, and he should be able to deal with the pirate with one hand. There are also those people who have been around for a long time, so many people, why were they killed in person by such a pirate? Why, His Royal Highness, there are pirates here again, they killed my wife. His Royal Highness, my father. His Royal Highness. Like a nightmare, no matter how many pirates Crane Og kills, how many pirate groups are destroyed in the nearby waters. There will still be fish slipping into this island, and then, under everyone's gaze, do whatever you want. No one resists. Why? Barber, I want to recruit soldiers. The two of us are not enough to protect the country. His Royal Highness, we can't recruit soldiers. Barber said bitterly. A long time ago, there were no soldiers in the kingdom of Klein. No matter how high the salary, the citizens were unwilling to recruit soldiers. They were afraid of pirates. Why? Oj was puzzled. I don't know. Maybe I'm an alternative. Barber smiled bitterly, and then solemnly said to Aug, Your Highness, the future of the country lies in you. Why? Why are you afraid of pirates? Why shouldn't you recruit soldiers to protect the country? Is it enough for one person? The pirates, and those unscrupulous businessmen, would die with just one shot. Why? Rebel, you resist. The pirate will die with just one shot, just like this. On the street, Oj deliberately caught a few live pirates, summoned the people, and stabbed a pirate to death in front of them. Look, he is dead. Don't be afraid of them at all, as long as they are like me, they are flesh and blood, and they will die too. It's just that even if Ao said it, his people still didn't respond, and even a little intolerable. Even if he personally brought someone to execute the pirate, that person could not do anything except tremble and cry. The kindness and gentleness, qualities that the Crane Kingdom is most proud of, at this moment, the shortcomings are fully exposed. Ogle is tired. Why not resist? Until that day, Oj couldn't hold back anymore, and asked an old man who had lost his children. His situation was the same as that of the previous man. In the case of many people, he was looted by a pirate who broke in suddenly on the street, and then killed his children. When the pirates killed people, there were many people in this street. That pirate ran away. What are you talking about, Your Highness? Pirate, how can you resist? The old man, who was on his knees looking at the corpses of his children, raised his head, his eyes were numb and puzzled. That expression caused Oguru to be struck by lightning, and he just stuck there, and the expression on his face gradually became dull and blank. His Royal Highness, the pirates can't resist, although we thank you for protecting us. The old man looked at Oj's expression wrong, and he encouraged him in the opposite direction, but those pirates are just coming to plunder property. Even if my luck is bad and my children are killed, I can't resist. Otherwise, they will kill more people next time they come. Just bear it, and wait until you come, and the pirate will retreat. Quote. Yes, how can the pirate resist? We don't have that power, unlike Your Highness Ao. Yeah, Your Highness Oj, we can't fight the pirates, they good or terrible. Yeah, we resisted once and once again. Since 100 years ago, we have been unable to resist the pirates. His Royal Highness, please hurry up to defend against the pirates and let them go. The people nearby were talking. Don't resist. Never resisted. Is that right? Is such that? Oj looked at the people, and their expressions were full of puzzlement and numbness. They are very gentle, very kind, no to help others, no to comfort others. Knowing that someone else has had a tragedy, I will try my best to help. Knowing that a family was killed by a pirate, he took the initiative to complete the funeral. But there is no long anger and resistance. That day, the sun in the sky was obscured by clouds, and it rained heavily. Just like this country, there shouldn't be sunny days. This country died very early. Chapter 168. Advertise here. Barber, one's power is limited. On that day, Ogle was stained with blood, and said coldly to the surprised look of Barber. At his feet are his father, sister and brother. I used to naively think that as long as I am strong, I can protect this country and save the world. But I was wrong. I could kill the pirates, I could kill the criminals, but I could not kill the national mind. Quote. You said that I am a rare genius in the kingdom of Klein in a century, but I, a genius, cannot save the country in a normal way. If you want to save this country and the people here, it is not enough to rely on one person's power. Pirates cannot be killed. I will grow old and I will die. It is unrealistic to put hope on the next person like me. I want to arouse the sense of resistance in this country. For this, I need hatred. They dare not resist the pirates or the royal family, so I will force them to resist. All the sins are on me, making the people fear me and hate me, until they can no longer bear it, so they rebel against me. As long as they resist the royal family, they will resist the pirates. It shouldn't be me or you who will save this country. Only when this country is enlightened can this country be saved. Kill. Looking at the torrent of people rushing over the steps, Crane Og showed fear and shouted, Don't come here. I'm 203, the king of this country. As he said, he stretched out his hand and opened his 5 fingers to the people. His gaze was placed on the front sage of Chong, and he roared, Do you really have the courage to overthrow me? Yes, we will never be bullied again, whether it is a pirate or a king. Sager yelled at him, stabbing the big silver gun in his hand. Oj's gaze was fixed, watching the big silver gun poking towards his neck. His gaze drifted away involuntarily. From his body, he looked at all the citizens who were excited at this time. The look in his eyes seemed to keep these people in his eyes. In the end, his eyes were on the marine who was holding the knife behind the crowd. You ask me why. Of course it's because. Crane Og's cold and gloomy face showed a smile, as it did in the past, a smile like the sun. I love this country deeply. It is saved. Laugh. The torrential rain has cleared. The rain dripped from the eaves to the ground, reflecting a ray of light. The black clouds dispersed, revealing the sun in the sky. Among the crowd, Sarger used his spear to pick Crane Og's head, turned around and shouted to everyone, We are born again. Oh, the sound of the mountain whirring and tsunami aroused among the people, they raised their weapons, cheered and jumped vigorously. The lightness as if driving away the mountain that had been pressing on top of his head. It's over. Everything is over. They no longer have to endure the king's oppression and pirates' attacks. No matter who they are, if they want to bully them in the future, they can only step on their bodies. Among the cheering crowd, Dick was the only one who froze there. Before Sage shot Ao's head, he saw the smile that I haven't seen for a long time. Just like back then, the fair-haired sunny boy smiled at himself and said that he wanted to save the country. An inexplicable emotion lingered in Dick's heart, and he opened his mouth as he watched the head hung on the silver-white gun. In the end, he could only lower his head, his figure was hidden among the many cheering people, and gradually disappeared. Crane Og is dead. The chief culprit in this country is dead. After cheering, a strong man holding a knife, gritted his teeth and tried to make a knife on the headless corpse. His action triggered other people to follow suit, holding weapons, and wanted to step forward to the headless corpse. The corpse came up, venting the hatred in his heart. Boom. At this moment, all of them were stiff, and stopped there for a moment. Sage looked back in surprise, and saw a sea of blood gushing from the front, giving people a kind of fear and coercion. That's not really a sea of blood, it's some kind of breath. Conquerors. And this level is obviously terrifying but doesn't stun people. Dick was taken aback and looked back. At this moment, on the spear that Sage was holding, the head was picked up by an afterimage. Luo Ye came to the crowd, holding the head, and sighing to the crowd. It's great, it's different when the will is awakened. His murderous aura must be put before, these people can't resist at all. And now, it's just to let them pause for a moment. As he said, he gently placed the head on Ao's headless corpse and spliced it together for him. After doing this, Luo Ye stood up, took out the cigar from his arms, spit out the smoke after lighting it, slapped his mouth and said, Why does Lousy owe you so much? You put Lousy together. Lousy wants to collect your body. When Sage saw Luo Ye, he was taken aback, and said, Ah, it's you, Luo Ye's benefactor. What are you doing? Oj said that his name was Luo Ye, and that this person helped them kill Barber and injured Oj seriously. Sage was all in his eyes. There has never been such a good person in this sea area. Good people show up and help us, that's the benefactor. What are you going to do, Luo Ye benefactor? After watching Luo Ye put Augur's head together, Sage was a little puzzled. This man is the root of all evil, why should he keep his whole body? This Hoon word. Luo Ye squeezed his 5 fingers, and the stones on the ground suddenly surged, wrapping the Oj on the ground. The stones were built up, and gradually shaped in it, forming a base. On the pedestal, there is a huge statue of Crane Og. This statue, with a smile, holding a big gun, looking forward. Benefactor. Sager is even more puzzled now. Why do you want to make a statue for this bastard? Don't get me wrong, I just want to give you a warning. Luo Ye waved his hand, and the surface of the base was sunken, forming a line of fonts. Crane Og, the last king of the hunting ground. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Let you always realize that, don't repeat the same mistakes. Luo Ye said. No, good guy, the center of the 4 emperors, there are still problems in the nearby sea area, depending on the situation, it is still a place frequented by pirates, and this day is not short, even terrible. Remember, this mood, this consciousness of wanting to resist, is the most precious to you. Klein Og, there is no doubt about what to do at this time. A flame ignited in Sager's eyes, and he clenched his fist and said, Absolutely, I will never be bullied again. Luo Ye said. Otherwise, you won't be able to survive in this sea area. Yes, we will never forget. Of course, do you think I gave myself a slap in the face? Luo Ye flipped over Byakugan and said. Sage scratched his head, his face suddenly straightened, and he bowed to Luo Ye. Anyway, thank you for saving us. I wouldn't have made up my mind to resist without you. At least Luo Ye himself can clearly perceive that if these people were in a pool of stagnant water when he first came, then their emotions would be like a raging fire, burning. It seems to be. In this regard, Luo Ye does not comment. Luo Ye shrugged, turned his head to look at the sculpture he had just made, his eyes were inexplicable, and he whispered, It's Lousy's kindness, for someone else, you've long been chopped into meat sauce. Luo Ye bit his cigar and shook his head, You can't rely on me for this kind of thing. It's up to you to resist, I'm just passing by. Yes, is that the case? Sager was stunned and asked. This fool used his own life, and even the life of his family, to arouse the will of the people. Chapter 169. Advertise here. What can Luo Ye comment on? This is not his country. Second, he has nothing to do with himself. Third, if he is really here. He is not as hockey and stupid as Ogle. If he lets himself come, he might be annoyed to chop off the pirate first, and then. If you don't use the method of past life memory and just judge it purely based on your own personality, it is estimated that you will directly withdraw. This thing, of course, if you can manage it; if you can't, then pull it down. Limited ability, can't afford to provoke, can't afford to hide. If he wants to do such a thing with his own life, Luo Ye can't do it. He doesn't have that big ambition, nor that ambition. However, in just 5 years, it was possible to inspire the will of these people who were like stagnant water. Klein Og was really a rare powerhouse. Yes, a person like you will probably not surrender to a pirate. Luo Ye looked at the statue and sighed softly. A country that has been oppressed by pirates and lawless elements for a long time, finally came out with a rebellious spirit and great ambition. You let him surrender to the 4 emperors. When a real person is shameless and conscienceless. He didn't know what Crane Og thought. Anyway, if he were himself, he wouldn't be able to do such a mess. Then he would rather go to the 4 emperors to single out, and fight to the death so as to bid farewell to this twisted world. As a strong man, he naturally has his dignity. After living in this world for so many years, Luo Ye has long realized it. People in this world say stupid is really stupid. Say it is admirable. There is also a little bit. Just so *king. Luo Ye kicked the pedestal of the statue, then looked at the group of people who were immersed in joy, and said, "Look carefully, what kind of people can you make with your own hands? Pirate. A pirate is here." Quote. The cheering people weren't completely happy yet, one of them murmured. "I saw a person running from the port, pointing to the port, panting and saying, 'Pirate, pirate ship. Pirate.'" When they heard the name again, everyone was silent and instinctive. They wanted to move their legs to hide at home, but they quickly reacted. Where are they now and what are they doing? They are resisting. They who have killed the king and also killed the pirates, how can they be afraid of the pirate ship? Let's go. Sager held the big silver gun and walked toward the harbor first. A group of people set off in mighty force. At the port, the outlines of 2 pirate ships approached gradually. Did you break through the spiral sea? Dick murmured to himself. The sea area around Klein Island has natural protection, that is, the spiral sea area. The flow of seawater is Uzumaki. Once the navigation method is wrong, it will be deep in the spiral, drifting continuously, and eventually will be drawn into the eyes of the sea. This was originally a good way to fight against pirates, but here is New World. For these pirates living in New World, breaking into the spiral sea is a normal difficulty. Although some pirates have been eliminated, there will always be pirates. After all, this spiral sea area is not a big deal in New World. Dick used to be a pirate. He knew very well that this country was not seen by the 4 emperors and those big pirates. Only the pirates who were eliminated to the point where they could barely survive would come to this country. It has been like this for 100 years. But now it's different. Those pirates won't understand that this country has already awakened. Kill those pirates and protect our own country. Sager raised his arms and shouted, causing a scream. The 2 pirate ships were getting closer, and the citizens also clenched their weapons in their hands, showing firmness one by one. Boom. The shelling sounded from a distance. The people stiffened, and hearing this sound, they knew that the pirate ship had begun to fire. Only, how did a pirate ship sink on the sea? A shell came from the back of the pirate ship and directly hit the pirate ship's ammunition depot. With just one shot, the pirate ship exploded and scattered into several pieces. People like little black dots landed from the boat one after another, fell into the sea and were swept away by the Uzumaki current. Boom boom boom. Behind another pirate ship, a large number of shells appeared, bombing the pirate ship. After the wreckage of the 2 pirate ships, a silhouette gradually emerged. That is a large fleet formed by a large number of ships. Fleet. Great fleet. Dick opened his eyes wide. How could it be possible? Why is there a large fleet here? He has been on this island for so long and has never seen a large fleet. Could it be that there are big pirates interested in this country? How can this be? Dick looked desperate. This country finally awakened, and everything has entered a new beginning. He has thought about it. This sage's talent is very good. As long as he teaches him himself, he will become stronger within a period of time. He is a man with conqueror's qualifications. When he becomes stronger, the country's high-end combat power will be there. Coupled with the citizens of this country, the kingdom of Klein will be reborn and thrive. 0. Look for flowers. The premise is that there is no large fleet approaching now. What about the big fleet? Sage's voice resounded in the crowd. The young man showed firmness and said loudly, "We will never be bullied again, and we will never give in. Even if we die, let people look at our backbone. Yes, isn't it just death? Isn't it less of our suffering? Yes, I never want to be bullied by others without doing anything. We will resist. Let those pirates understand that bullying us will cost our lives." 0. The people roared one after another, and their expressions brought determination. Just as their will to endure from numbness was changed at a great price by Klein Og, the current will to resist cannot be suppressed by threats alone. This will cannot be reversed without paying the price of blood again. This is also the result that Crane Og wanted. Luo Ye sighed, walked up to them, and said, "Don't be nervous, it's the Golden City." Golden City. Sager was taken aback. Well, This is the new world after all, and the location is still in the center of the four emperors. If there are not many escort fleets, there will be problems. Luo Ye bit his cigar and looked at the sea. They came to pick me up. As he said, he took off his hat and threw it away, revealing his handsome face. Seeing that face, the other citizens didn't react much. Only Dick was stunned for a while, looked at Luo Ye for a while, and suddenly exclaimed, Monkey D. Luo Ye. Who is it? XN. Before this country, because of numbness and oppression, I didn't read the newspaper very much, but Dick would read it. Under the Spiral Sea area, not only is the protection against the pirates, but also these citizens are blocked. If you want to get the news, there is no other way except newspapers. Dick reads the newspaper and doesn't leave any news behind, so he recognizes it. This man, the man with the highest amount of reward in the world, and was offered a reward as celestial dragons, and recently killed the golden lion and the lonely red man. Dick suddenly said, so it was you. No wonder I can deal with Oj and Barber. Ye. Chapter 170. Advertise here. He saw Oj's strength in his eyes. When teaching him spear skills, he already knew hockey, and he was very talented. Especially in today's battle, Oj's strength is already extremely terrifying in his eyes. If you can beat him, you should be well known. An unknown person, on what basis can defeat Ogle? But if it is Monkey D. Luo Ye, all this can make sense. In New World, the pirate on this island often mentions him. This strength is terrifying, but some things about the guy who is offering a more terrifying bounty. I heard that he faced the encirclement of naval headquarters alone after the war on the top, but he easily broke out. He was a character like a demon king. Only the paradise pirates who don't know the heights of the sky will be greedy for this guy's bounty and identity. Luo Ye's strength is feared by the New World pirates. Most of the pirates of New World watched the live broadcast of 2007. In their words, the siege of the Three Admiral, instead of them being bombarded into scum, there is still a chance to break through. Although some pirates think this man is nothing terrible, judging from his current strength. If he keeps New World, sooner or later he will be able to achieve a reputation no less than 4 emperors. This battle, this is all coming. Luo Ye quickly perceives it as soon as he sees and hears the color. There are a lot of acquaintances in the Great Thorold in front of the big fleet. Let's not mention the Golden Emperor Tezolo and his subordinates. Even the breath of Bullet and Shi Zihao also exists. There are also some auras that are a little bit worth seeing, but the master of these breaths, Luo Ye, does not know. The noise here is really big. Momosuke appeared next to Luo Ye wearing a cloak. Luo Ye could only squeeze his shoulders after hearing the words. There's no way, the awakening of the nation. Really? Will this country change? It should be, otherwise, someone's efforts will be wasted. Luo Ye glanced at the national statue. On the Great Thorold, inside the Golden Building. You guys are back here too, so how is the plan going? Luo Ye shook the wine glass in his hand and asked Bullet and Shi Zihao who were sitting opposite. Cut, what's your tone? Shi Zihao shouted to Luo Ye uncomfortably. Well, we took the lead in exposing the possession of eternal pointers at Sabayati Archipelago, and then. After defeating Doflamingo and Jack the Drow, I originally planned to return to rest for a while and then go to the other 4 emperors to attract attention. Why are you so honest? Shi Zihao angrily interrupted the Bullet that was honestly reporting, and kept tapping the sluggish Bullet with his hands. Luo Ye suddenly remembered something when he saw this scene. In other words, it seems that the original plan didn't find the flamingo, right? It wasn't you who brought it up. Luo Ye took a sip of red wine and pointed at Shi Zihao. Ha, how is it possible? It's just a coincidence, and it doesn't affect the plan at all, isn't it? Ha ha ha. Shi Zihao looked at Luo Ye on the opposite side, waving his hands constantly, and his eyes fluttering wildly. The acting is terrible, and he looks so guilty. Seeing Shi Zihao's appearance, Luo Ye couldn't help but complain. Well, it is indeed the attention of this guy. He said that he was scammed by Doflamingo 10 years ago to snatch the heavenly gold, and his partners died, and then he was defeated by Aokiji and sent to the recommended city, so he wanted to retaliate against Doflamingo and rob him. His daughter. Bullet honestly repeated what Shi Zihao said to him to Luo Ye. Shi Zihao saw this situation and began to give up treatment, lying on the sofa like a salted fish. Ah, hearing Luo Ye's mocking laughter, Shi Zihao directly yelled. You still said, then why did you kill the 2 old guys, Ji Yu Gao Zihong and Golden Lion? Luo Ye was a little surprised when he heard Shi Zihao's words. Huh. Well, big-headed guys, although those 2 old guys are old, they can make the plan more convenient if they pull us down to support the scene. As a result, you just broke it. Huh, the news that those 2 old guys were killed by me, if you all know it, it means it has been in the newspaper. It's not surprising that Doflamingo will reveal this news, but Golden Lion was killed by me, yes. Who exposed it? Luo Ye touched his chin with interest and thought about this question. The Vinsmoke family. No, that fellow judge was afraid that I was afraid of it, and there is no need to offend me for this news. In other words, it was done by 4 countries, which is really annoying. Why not beheaded by Judge Zero? Hey, Luo Ye, you bastard. Don't ignore me. After Shi Zihao watched Luo Ye who was on the other side didn't reply to his question, his exploding temper broke out again and yelled at Luo Ye. Shut up. Bump. Grand Thorold, shopping street. Well, last time Luo Ye was either fighting here or doing other things. He didn't really feel the feeling of the most luxurious entertainment city in the world. Momosuke, dressed in fashionable sexy clothes, said to the sexy Robin next to him that the two people had just walked out of a clothing store, holding a large number of shopping bags in their hands, indicating that they were happy shopping. Well, indeed, shopping is a woman's paradise, so I can feel it. But is it really good to spend so much money? Robin felt the feeling of his clothes and nodded in agreement. However, he glanced at the amount on the two people's shopping lists, and said with some worry. What are you afraid of? Tezzolo gave me a gold card with unlimited consumption here. The amount inside is unlimited. Momosuke leaned into Robin's ear and exhaled blue. Yes. Well, it's a pity that Luo Ye doesn't come to help me carry the shopping bag, otherwise I can buy more things. But I won't let him go tomorrow, but our next goal now is that dessert shop. Quote. Momosuke finished 5.7 carrying a lot of shopping bags and walked to a dessert shop in the distance. Robin also had to walk up with long sexy legs wearing high heels. Several characters in weird costumes in the store were eating desserts under the fearful eyes of the waiter. It hurts. You bastard. Let me go quickly. Bullet sat on the sofa and watched the tragedy in front of him. Luo Ye pressed Shi Zihao to the ground and slammed him. He didn't even have the ability to resist, so he could only cry out of pain. Bullet's gaze slowly moved down, and Shi Zihao's limbs were constrained by comfortable stone props made of strange materials. Sea stone. Okay. Luo Ye, who was beating Shi Zihao, suddenly stopped. As if he sensed something, he broke the window and flew out.